Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have guest Dr. Serge Beddington-Behrens, if I got that right. He's Oxford educated. He is a transpersonal psychotherapist, spiritual educator. His new book, Amazing Grace, Memoirs of a Transformational Journey, we're going to be talking about tonight. I've dwelled a little bit into it, and I know I sound like complete crud tonight. Whole family sick. I've been fighting it off for like a week and a half, like not super sick, like just a slight chest congestion, a little irritation in my throat. That's all I've had. But my poor wife and son, fevers, body aches, cough, chest congestion, the whole 9 yards. Sadly for them. So I haven't got a lot of sleep lately. So hey, bear with me if I sound like crap or I lose myself tonight. I hope not, because this is going to be a good guest. Dr. Serge Beddington-Behrens, I hope I get that right, is going to be joining us after the World Wide Web Weird, after our first commercial break. And of course, we'll open up the phone lines later, and we got a lot of weird to get to since we've been gone for 2 weeks. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Sorry we didn't have a show, but I do work retail. And I take that weekend off from everything because I am just not there. You can hear even a week later. I can blame Black Friday for my sickness. I don't know, but I'll stop complaining. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Dr. Serge Beddington-Behrens. I'm not going to butcher that. It will be joining us after the World Wide Web Weird, after our first commercial break. Joining us, as always, is the beautiful co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing good, thank you. Good to
glad to have you here. Now, you gave me an update. You said the kitties are all doing better, right?
Most of them, yes.
Most of them, yeah. It's been a battle. I got a sick kitty too. I'm up every 5 a.m. with my poor Luna has an ulcer, puking up blood. It's been fun. More complaining from me as I cough and hack up a lung. Joining me from a lot warmer St. Augustine, Florida, as he rubbed in my face for the show. Thanks, Rob. Remind me how cold it is. It's not that cold here, but it's better in Florida. Welcome back to the show. How you been? I hope you had a good Thanksgiving too.
Oh yeah, it was good.
All right, man. I missed Weird Wednesday. I've been totally just not making it till 11 o'clock at night. That's my problem on Wednesday night. But, we got a lot of weird to get to, so let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I thought I would start off with some updates. The first 3 articles are all things we've covered over the last several months of news stories in the World Wide Web of Weird. And there's been some updates, not so great ones, some disappointing ones, and some ones I might disagree with. The first one, new update, new analysis of Avi Loeb's alien spherules, that's how you say it, raises more questions. Or really, does it? I know, I'm such a pessimist. All right, yeah, we've been covering this Avi Loeb thing here over the last course of the months of his theory that an alien craft of some kind or object landed in the ocean, and he's been trying to find evidence of it on the ocean floor. And he found these spherules. Spherules. I never even heard of that word. So now, back in June, Loeb, who had been on an expedition to search for pieces of an interstellar object that fell somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, published a blog article describing the discovery of mysterious metal spherules with a composition that he claimed to be anomalous when compared to human-made alloys. We found 10 spherules, he said. They are almost perfect spheres of metallic marbles. When you look at them through a microscope, they look very distinct from the background. It has material strength that is tougher than all space rock that we've seen before. Loeb claims proves controversial to say the least. As seems to stand, his paper on the findings has yet to be peer-reviewed. Many scientists question whether or not the spherules were actually a form of a meteorite, while others criticize his conclusions on their supposedly anomalous nature. Now, according to a new paper published in the Journal of Research Notes of the AAS, the spherules might actually have a rather mundane explanation. Contents of the nickel, beryllium, and lanthanum and uranium are examined in the context of a known human source of contamination and found to be consistent with coal ash. So it's pollution. He found pollution. He found coal ash pollution. Because, yeah, there's a ton of that. I'm sure he could find more. That's the, they say raises more questions. What more questions? It's pollution. It's all over, especially from coal plants, I'm not all hyped up about getting, rid of coal to replace with nuclear power, but, as long as we don't have a Fukushima, it's not like raining sulfuric acid and spherical modules on our ocean floor, and blowing up mountains to get more coal.
Yeah, that's never fun.
Yeah. We didn't find aliens, we just found pollution. Yay.
Or maybe it's alien poo.
Yeah. It's poo, all right. It's human waste poo. All right, another one. This one I'm kind of disappointed to hear. It's all disappointments. Let me get my silver pool out. Tell you how you've disappointed me. Oh, I had so much hope for this, but I knew it was going to probably turn out this way. LK99 is no radical superconductor. We covered this several months ago. That they thought they had this material, LK99, that could be the ultimate superconductor that scientists has been on the search for. Yeah, not so much. I'm not going to read the whole article from Science Alert here, but because it's very lengthy. But basically, the conclusions are it was impurities in the material giving the results. There was already clues there that it wasn't going to be a superconductor, according to what they would expect from it. But man, I'm so disappointed. They got that alien crap hidden. They got some superconductive alien crap. They know how to do it, the military. I'm just saying.
You're not going to tell us.
No. But it is like one of the holy grails of, advancements we're looking for. I mean, it would just pave the way for so many things if we could come up with a superconductor. I mean, we're talking levitation cars and stuff like that. This is what they're looking for.
But even if they had it, would they tell us, really?
No, not likely.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe they would. I think they would if they had it. I don't know. Maybe, it would improve a lot of things. But the one thing they wouldn't tell us is if they found cold fusion or, free power or electricity or power.
If they don't make money off of it, they are not going to tell us about it.
It was a South Korean team that proposed it and came up with the material. It consists of copper, lead, phosphorus, and oxygen. But the gist of from what I read the article is basically impurities in it that were giving it some unusual factors they thought resembled superconductivity, but it wasn't. And there was a bunch of misleading information and hype that came out afterwards, too, that clouded the issue. But
Nikola Tesla had all kinds of things figured out, and all that stuff was suddenly disappeared. And
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know.
And guess who ran that? Trump's uncle. He collected all that for the you know.
Maybe he has.
You ever heard the time travel Trump theory?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to sound like a dying man every time I laugh here. All right. Let's move on.
Schmedley.
Like that dog.
All right. We also an update here. We were covering the Peruvian story of 7-foot tall yellow-eyed assailants or whatever. We got the unexplained. This is the Sun article. I got the unexplained mystery one to read. That's shorter. But you know, I don't buy what these investigators are saying, but something strange is going on in a small village of San Antonio de Peñaca, if I probably totally butchered that. At least that is according to reports of 7-foot tall figures with yellow eyes terrorizing local residents. Some witnesses describe alien-like beings floating through the air on metal discs, while others claim that the mysterious assailants were dressed in black armor with oval-shaped helmets. In one instance, a local actually fired his gun at one of the figures, and while he seemed to have hit it, the entity reportedly got up and fled, seemingly no worse for wear. In another, a 15-year-old girl was attacked and wounded after one of the assailants emerged from the darkness, again riding a floating platform, and grabbed her. When a second figure appeared, the pair allegedly attempted to perform some sort of surgical procedure on her face with a scalpel. Fortunately, she was able to scream for help, and other villagers soon arrived on the scene. They too witnessed the mysterious assailants as they ran back to the bushes. When American explorer Timothy Albrino and his ex-Marine friend Doug Thornton, who happened to be in the area, ventured into the jungle to investigate, they determined that these attackers, far from being alien visitors, may have been regular humans with something very sinister in mind. Worst case scenario, this is an international organization of organ harvesting or sex traffickers who are in possession of top secret hardware, and they're using it to do something very similar, sinister, said Albrino. I honestly believe that that's what they're dealing with here. Based on what evidence? There's no more. There's no more evidence of that. I don't get where they base their evidence. Is this from the Stephen Greer conference where you had the guys up there talking about that they're using alien ships to sex traffic, for sex trafficking and stuff like that? I mean, where's their evidence of this? It's just the same as them saying, "Oh, it's miners legally mining and dressing up and getting hoverboards to scare people away."
Or jetpacks, flying around on jetpacks.
Yeah, jetpacks, yeah. But these two investigators, nothing against them. But, okay, like, where's your, what leads you to that? I mean, I don't know. I think something happened down there.
We have a hunch.
You have a hunch. Are there missing children? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just crazy. We're going to take it crazy, and we're going to pile more crazy on and say it's, U.S. government or people with alien technology, sex trafficking. Seriously.
What difference does it make anymore?
Why don't they investigate and not speculate?
That'd be too much work.
Yeah.
It's easier to just make stories up and keep repeating.
I can sit on my armchair here and speculate.
Or they're hiding
It's my job.
So they just
I can't go there. Yeah. But if I could go there, I wouldn't be. I mean, I'm going to speculate because I have an imagination, like they do. But I'd investigate. Let's find out the evidence of that. What points to that?
Got common sense, which is a rarity these days.
Mm-hmm. All right, but that's it on the update. So now on to some news stuff. We got a new security cam footage of an alien figure emerging. So I got this off of Coast to Coast. Alien-like figure with oversized head is seen oddly moving about near some parked cars before descending into the shadows, and a security cam footage purportedly recorded in Fresno, California, a parking area on November 10th at 1:30 a.m. Posted by YouTube channel UFO VNI 2012, the narrator describes the entity as having extraterrestrial morphology and being larger than a typical gray with insectoid-shaped head. They further note that the imagery bears a resemblance to footage shot in Metepec, Mexico in 1994 and other side-by-side comparisons. You can find that at UFO VNI 2012 is the YouTube channel if you want to, because they have a longer video and they do like a comparison to some other stuff I think is really interesting. You can play a little bit of it.
Insect head. This is where you lost
me. It does. It has like a head. My God, I sound horrible. It has like a kind of like a pony head. I tried to zoom in on it. But could this be just, shenanigans? A guy dressed in a suit and bad lit security camera footage.
That doesn't look like an alien to me. It just looks like a person.
Oh, get the zoom in. It definitely has a weird shape to it. When you get the zoom in here, it should come up. I mean, it definitely could be a human in some kind of mask suit or something going on. See the head?
Yeah.
It
could have
turns.
a helmet
Yeah,
on,
of course.
like a motorcycle helmet on and a jumpsuit, or... Oh, but there's something weird about the arms.
The movement. Yeah, like how it hunches. Look how it
yeah.
hunches over, and it's got that. Yeah, I don't know.
There's the word hunch again. The hunch.
See, this is the stuff we needed for the ring camera competition.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a really, I got a nice door cam, and I could never imagine getting footage this crappy.
It's reflecting off of the head, like it's reflecting off the taillights of that car.
Mm-hmm. And so you think he's like shiny?
Yeah, or it's a guy
or some kind of surface that would reflect like that off the infrared.
Some kind of a surface, or
it's a weird movement. I don't know.
Right there when it turns, there's something that looks weird.
Yeah,
it's a monkey man.
But without much more provenance. Without much more of a person. I mean, of course, that happens because if you are the person that comes to your security cam footage and you're like, what the heck is that? You don't want anything more to do with it. You send it off to some UFO YouTube channel and you're done with it,
Mm-hmm. Like, hey, check this out.
There's not much more of a story. I found that on my video, security cam. Tell me what? I don't know.
I still don't see how the security cam gets this crappy of a footage, though. If my footage looked like this on my security cam, I'd be calling the security company and say, hey, come pick this camera up because it's broken.
It looks crappy like now because it's zooming in. I'm zooming in. I'm way zooming in, so it looks really crappy. The more you zoom in, no matter how good, it's going to look like crap. But yeah, the initial footage still isn't great either.
I must have a really good camera.
I am obsessed with. I do like my Ring camera. Ring should be paying me promotional ads. Where are you, Ring? Come on, they really should be. Give them free freaking advertising. They don't need.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a new event. You're looking at it.
All right, on to the next one. All right, so 2 fighter jets were scrambled to intercept a UFO near an airport in India. What is up with airports and UFOs like? Incident began around 2:30 p.m. local time on Sunday when an unidentified object was reported over the northeastern state of Manipur, prompting flights from the I'm not going to try to say that, some international airport in India. To be grounded for several hours over safety concerns. According to reports, the object was clearly visible to witnesses on the ground. So great were the concerns over the nature of the UFO that India's Air Force scrambled 2 Rafale fighter jets from the Hashimara Air Base in eastern state of West Bengal to look for it. Equipped with advanced sensors, the jets investigated the area but found no signs of the objects. The investigation lasted several hours, and clearance to resume flights wasn't given until 5:30 p.m. They weren't playing around. The UFO was visible with bare eyes moving westwards over the airfield till 4 p.m. An official with the India Central Industrial Security Force was quoted as saying, as things stand, the nature and origins of the objects continue to remain a mystery. They'll have a full investigation into that because, I mean, it's over an international airport. You had to shut down for hours. They're going to be looking at drone, see if anybody was operating a drone in the area or something. I wish there was more of a description of what people saw, though. What did they see? All we know is an object. That could mean a lot of things. Especially in the day of drones,
And Mylar balloons.
Yeah.
It's just a balloon.
But, I mean, it seems lately there's been a lot of airport UFO stuff. I don't know. Last place I want to see a UFO is I'm on a plane.
Hey, Jason, look out the window. It's a UFO.
No. Well, I don't want the window seat. No, I do like the window seat because I do look for it, though. It's like one of those things. I don't want to see it, but I'm looking for it.
Exactly.
I'm like totally looking for it. Well, every time I've flown on a plane, I try to get the window seat so I can look out the window. I'm looking for a UFO. Even though I don't want to see it, I'm looking for it. It's like self-torture.
Yep, exactly.
All right, let's move on. All right, continuing story. David Gersh. U.S. ex-intelligence officer recently talked a bit more on his findings on the Joe Rogan experience. So I watched that interview. And, I will say about David Gersh, he's getting out there. He's doing the media stuff. There was one thing my boss, my friend, sent me of him in more personal kind of interactions and stuff. I mean, he seems like he's honestly trying to get information out there. And he always stipulates he's not personally witnessed or has physical knowledge of these things.
Yeah,
it's all what he heard. This is what drives me nuts about it. It's nothing against him. It really isn't. Because, that could be just the truth of it.
That is just secondhand information, hearsay.
Well, now he's coming out saying that he's heard about alien bodies being recovered. Okay. Again, you don't have firsthand knowledge, man. Get us the people who do. Who are going to stand up at their own personal risk. I get it. But say it. I've seen the alien bodies.
Yeah.
I've seen the alien craft. I need those people, David. And maybe he's working on that. Maybe by him going out and warming the audience up, he's the first act. Because I do think there are people that have worked in this industry. I can't believe everybody's evil and conspiring. There are people that have to be working in this, in that the shadows of this.
For sure.
That want it exposed.
For sure.
Imagine living with this kind of truth, knowing, the ramifications of this. If you think deeply, I think there's plenty of people that go along with this that don't think deeply about it. But if you think deeply, you get back into the origins of humanity and why we're here. If there's aliens here, it had a lot of questions. It make you rethink everything. It should be ground shaking to everybody who would ever be told this secret. It'd be hard to keep that inside. That's why I say go look at the Apollo mission when Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins, and Neil Armstrong come back. I think that's the kind of reaction people have when they get this kind of information, and then they can't share it. They look like they want to vomit.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out about those guys now.
Yeah. Well, the last article pertains more to this. CIA allegedly involved in retrieving materials from UFO crash sites. According to a new media report based on anonymous sources, the CIA has been running UFO retrieval missions for years. You don't say. You don't say. I don't need an anonymous source. And I'm not going to read this whole thing, but it wasn't a long time ago claims of secretive UFO government programs would have been dismissed out of hand as conspiratorial nonsense. Yet in recent years, we've seen everything from the launching of the new Pentagon UFO office to the official release of video clips, blah, blah, blah. They go on. Basically, they're saying this anonymous source is that we recovered 9 UFO craft. Why does that sound familiar? Bob Lazar, right?
Exactly.
But it is interesting aspect, though, what he talks about the CIA's involvement is they are the coordinators to get this UFO recovery team that probably works separate from the CIA, from the government, totally black book, but the CIA is needed because they have the resources to get them into those countries. You hear the stories of Brazil, Mexico, Africa, other places in the world where UFOs have crashed, and somehow America, you've heard American, or maybe not American, but black ops people, who knows international. I shouldn't say American. This could, are going into these countries and recovering these craft and taking them to God knows where. Well, they got to have resources to do that, a network. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they would need the CIA. So the CIA, and the thing is, the CIA is under government purview. They are, of course, hide tons of things, our Congress, and nobody can get their hands on it. You can see it now with Tim Burchett. I'm not a big fan of the Republican Party, but I will give that guy a big kudos. I think he is actually working really hard to try to get this information. Representative Luna, too. She's been working hard. They're plainly saying they're being stonewalled and blocked by the Pentagon. By the CIA, they're being, they're like, okay, we want to do disclosure. We're going to do congressional investigations. Oh yeah, that was all show. No, you're not going to get to learn anything. And these congressmen act surprised, but they're trying.
The CIA has their hands in everything.
Well, that's what I said is like somebody orchestrated this or something happened where they got this ball rolling. But the thing is, the ball that goes downhill like a snowball, and it's going to grab more and more and more. And there are going to be people, legitimate people in the government that are going, okay, if that's true, we need to look into this because that breaks the law in so many different ways.
It's like the whole UN situation.
I mean, we have an intelligence community that has UFOs beside run amok in the world, run a complete muck in the world, and lied to the American people repeatedly. I have plenty of history to back me up on that, and get us into wars to help their military contracts. Because these guys go in and out. You know, they work for the CIA and then they go work for Raytheon, Lockheed, and all the other war industry. And it's just a revolving door. So there's a lot. UFOs aside, I'd love to see a whole cleanup of our intelligence community, especially when they can, all personally sign some affidavit saying something that's completely false and they know it's false. You know what I'm talking about. They get involved in our elections now. I mean, we deserve it because our CIA is definitely involved in other countries' elections and manipulating them, and now they're doing it to our own. They are they're cancer of this society. I'm not a fan of the CIA.
No.
Now I'm going to be wiretapped. They don't even wiretap. They're like, shit, wiretap. We have way better technology than that. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. I will try to make it through the show tonight as I sound like crap. But our guest tonight is Serge Beddington-Behrens, and he's actually Italian knighthood, I think he got. He's Oxford educated. He's a spiritual educator, transpersonal psychotherapist. We're going to be talking about his new book, Amazing Grace, Memoirs of a Transformational... See, I am barely able to talk. Memoirs of a Transformational Journey. When we come back from the short commercial break.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It's called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Encounters of the Third Kind, Certificate A, now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The international chart-topping, haunted horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Dr. Serge Beddington-Behrens. He's an Oxford-educated transpersonal psychotherapist, teacher of transformation, and a spiritual educator and activist for a healthier world. In his mid-20s, he moved to live in California and trained to become a transpersonal psychotherapist, during which time he co-founded the Institute of Study of Consciousness Evolution in San Francisco. Over the next 10 years, he helped put on many global conferences, the most well-known being the Florence Congress of the New Age, which took place in Florence, 1975. For over 40 years, he's had a private psychotherapy practice and has trained psychotherapists, as well as having lectured, taught, workshops, and run spiritual retreats all over England, Europe, America, and Russia. He's the author of 3 books, Waking the Universal Heart, A Guide to Spiritual Activists, August release of 2020, Gateways of the Soul, Inner Work for the Outer World, and the upcoming book we're going to be talking about tonight, Amazing Grace, Memoirs of a Transformational Journey. Serge has also contributed to over 40 articles, journals dealing with transpersonal themes. He lives now with his wife, 2 cats, and a dog in the island of Melrocca. I think it's like 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. there his time, so I'm always honored to have a guest on. We will open up the phone lines later in the show to ask questions of our guests, but let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. All right, let me bring Serge on in.
Hey, Jason.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Not to complain. I wish I could say I was doing good, but bear with me tonight. I'm losing my voice a little bit because I've had like a chest cold for like a week and a half, and my wife and kid are like completely sick. I've just had a chest cold, but it's hit me tonight a little bit. So I apologize in advance for how crappy I sound.
I've got one as well, Jason.
Oh, jeez.
So
Tis
we're
the season.
both in the same one. Yeah.
Oh, we're just going to sound like a lovely pair tonight. This is Jamie and Rob. They'll fill in with the healthier voices.
Hi. Hi, Gene.
Well, it's an honor to have you on the show. I've just started to get into the book, Amazing Grace. I've been busy, so I haven't got to totally into it, but I also been listening to some of your YouTube channel recently, like your topics on the war, which is definitely a present theme lately, the news for everybody. So I'd like you to start out, like, what started this journey for you, where you began down this road.
I'll just show you my book, by the way, Amazing Grace.
I got it here, actually, too. We can give them a nice, clear...
What started my journey, goodness, the moment we're born, our journey starts, Jason, I guess. But do you mean my...
You're raring to go the moment you came out, right?
I came out running.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't. I came out pretty sleepily to start with.
Yeah. My mom told me I came out all drugged up.
Well, I came out all drugged up. And the interesting thing is I heard that if your parents are given, things to sort of drug you during your birth, it makes you more sort of susceptible to being doped up sort of later in life.
Just how we started, right?
No more comments.
It would explain a lot. It would explain a lot.
I'm an old hippie now, Jason. Old hippie,
You look like Gandalf, but I think that's so awesome. I'm not, it's actually really a compliment, Lord of the Rings compliment.
Well, I take it as a great compliment. He's one of my heroes.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what started my journey? I guess I was born into the lap of luxury, Jason. My dad was a multimillionaire. My mother was a Russian princess. So I had this,
Romanov?
No, related to the Romanov family, Obolensky.
Well, so glad she wasn't. They had a bad end, but okay.
Well, my grandparents escaped from the revolution and sort of taking my mama just as a little child. So she just got away.
Wow.
So there's a kind of trauma. And if you ask me later about questions of war, I'll talk about the relation of war and trauma. But anyway, so I grew up in this opulent world, the best education, and everything like that, but my soul was not happy. So I wanted to break from it. And when I left Oxford, I went to California and found my tribe, because I guess in life we need to find our tribe. I felt I was a pea in the wrong pea pod in the social world in which I lived in England. So I went to California and found my tribe. And there were other countercultural revolutionaries or evolutionaries.
Was it the 60s?
The 70s.
The 70s, just as good.
But the 70s was the time of the new age of Aquarius, where the dawning of a golden age was going to emerge out, and we'd all sort of walk through and be blissful and happy. And
then they got slapped in the face with the 80s.
And then the slap in the face. Well, we were a bit too naive in those days, and we didn't accept the shadow, the dark side of life, the opposite of the light. So that we were all these idealistic hippie, evolutionaries, sort of, let's make love, not war. We turn on, tune in, and drop out. And we had a war against the suits. But actually, to tell bad people that they're bad does not make them good. So we didn't get very far. So I think that there's a new movement happening now. I mean, if you went up to Donald Trump and said what you thought about him, don't think it'd really help him.
No, I don't think those kind of things get through to him. If I had my time with any of them, any of the people on any political side, I have my Festivus silver pool I'd put down. I have a lot of things I'm disappointed in.
Well, your wonderful country is a very split country between those who are all educated, but all the money has been taken out of the economy to benefit the super rich and has been taken out of your educational and medical systems.
It's been strip mined.
Terrible shame.
It's been strip mined. By both parties. I'm going to tell you right now, though. I'm going to be one of those people to tell you right now. I believe both parties.
By both parties. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sort of that the only difference is that one's a lot worse than the other today.
I don't know.
I mean, sort of one isn't a party anymore. It's a band of radical insurgents.
Do you want the wolf or do you want the wolf in sheep's clothing? That's how I put it.
Good.
Do you want them to talk nice to you and screw you over? Or do you want them to just be total jerks and you know they're screwing you over? I mean, they all screw you over.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, to find amazing grace in the middle of all this is that as Carl Jung said, if we want to evolve, we need to go into our shadow. We need to go into our dark side. So I've done a lot of journeying into my dark side, into my narcissism, into my elitism, into my snobism, because I was brought up into a world that was homophobic and elitist, and I was superior because I was a white male and, I spoke with a proper English voice. This sort of accent of mine is the Prince Charles accent. It's proper. And
it's posh.
It's posh. Posh. Yeah, posh. And
I watch the BBC. I know that word.
And so us posh boys thought that we were the answer. Only, of course, one realizes that that's the big myth. So anyway, I tried to unposh myself. I wanted to be an ordinary, simple human being and live a simple life and find out sort of how to help others. And I gave up all this posh thing. I got rid of the wealth that I'd inherited. What
was the catalyst, though? I mean, that really sparked you to want this change? I mean, you could have kept on going and be a Playboy millionaire, living off of mommy and daddy's dime and having fun.
Well, I was
nobody would have blamed you.
I was a playboy for a little time, but I never had fast cars because I was embarrassed about all that wealth.
You think that was innate in you then? Like that
I
sense?
think it was innate in me because I feel that we all, I feel, Jason, that we all have a soul inside us. And I guess my soul was unhappy and my soul wanted to awaken. And my soul's calling was stronger than the impediments of my conditioning. So I said, I want to be me. I want to break out of this straitjacket where I don't mix with real people, where I feel that I'm elitist. I want to break out of this straitjacket. I want to discover who am I really underneath this personality that had been kind of sort of foisted on me. So I guess I sort of broke out to break through, and I kind of like that song, as an old hippie, I'm a great fan of the Doors. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking of,
not an old hippie, I love them.
Break on through to the other side. I guess I've broken on through to the other side in various ways that I've done it, through, meditation, exploration with psychedelics, sort of working with Zen Buddhists, being a Sufi for some time, sort of studying Christian mysticism, exploring Jungian psychology. I've sort of tried to integrate all these different things, and I guess that's the thing that sort of my journey is about.
Well, I know the feeling. I grew up. Luckily, I grew up in a very open household. where it's discover your own. You know, my mom is a Buddhist now.
Great.
And my dad is a kind of I used to say he was an atheist. He's not an atheist. He's into science, quantum physics. He believes because of science, he believes in other realms. Just put it that way. So I wouldn't say he's an atheist, you know, like that. He believes science can prove a lot of the experiences people have metaphysically. So he's really into the quantum stuff. So I grew up in a realm of like discover your own, you know, like my parents are open to ideas and other religions and, you know.
Well, Jason, beware your children because they'll grow up to be stockbrokers and they will.
Don't say that. How dare you?
For Goldman Sachs, because kids always oppose their parents. So just watch out. I hope not.
No, they're my two little ghost hunters. They already got into that. And we talk all kinds of stuff, aliens, Bigfoot, all weird stuff. We're a weird family. We go to sleep, listening to ancient aliens, you know?
How fantastic. So,
yeah.
Well, we all are ancient aliens.
I believe so, yes. So we go to the Church of Ancient Aliens, what we tell people.
I wish one didn't use that separatist language to call it an alien because it's a word of separation.
Ancient ancestors.
Yeah, ancient ancestors is a better way to call it because it's derogatory. An alien, you know, you're out there, you're alien to me. We're all part of one cosmos and all the beings and all the planets and all the evolutionary systems, that they're all interconnected.
I believe so. I mean, I'm a big believer in reincarnation as far as the fact I believe that we could have lived as aliens and as other life forms in previous lives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, I think there's... Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm on the same track as you, Jason. Yeah.
You know, I find interesting about your story too is that you came from wealth, you came from royalty. I mean, your mother is Siddhartha, Buddha. You know, that's kind of his story. At the same time too, he left a family of royalty, of wealth to seek enlightenment. You know, it's a similar, like, you know, it's almost like a Jungian archetype or a Joseph Campbell like arc. You know, from spiritual journeys.
I mean, sort of, if you look at the cover of my book, on the left side, I started as a dandy, you know.
I see that.
And then I became a professional ski racer. And then I had very interesting sort of spiritual experiences. And then I graduated from Haight-Ashbury to training as a shaman. And then, of course, the guy who did the cover of the book, he rather complimented me in the middle. I'm not quite that. I'm just an ordinary sort of, you know, simple person.
Your chakras aren't just glowing.
I wish all my chakras were glowing like that. You know? You know.
Well, I do love the color of the book. We in my living room, like to speak to like how my kids might grow up, I don't know, but I have Salvador Dali's Last Supper in one corner, and I have the Tibetan Buddhist, like pretty much something like this, hanging up in my living room. We're a very eclectic household. You know, if my kids grow up to be stockbrokers, fine. Is the one thing I've tried to teach my kids is compassion.
Well,
put themselves in other people's feet or shoes. Put yourselves in other people's shoes and try to, you know, think beyond themselves.
Well, dear Jason, I wish I'd had a dad like you. And I've tried to be a dad like you with my 24-year-old daughter. So anyway, I'm kind of a late developer. You know, some people develop early. I'm kind of developing late. I'm just starting out. Can you see I've got the Buddha on one side of me. I just came big
in your
I've got the Buddha there, and on the other side I've got the descent of the dove of peace.
Yeah. So you're like me. You're the same kind of decoration scheme.
Yeah, absolutely. and sort of up there on my right behind is a Japanese picture of the Buddha sort of pointing at the moon. saying
Oh,
the
yeah.
finger pointing at the moon is not the moon.
You know, have you heard the conspiracy theory of why they say Buddha's pointing at the moon?
No.
It goes back to the John Lear Art Bell episode where he says the moon is a giant soul capacitor and aliens control reincarnation. And I've seen it where they show, because there are lots of paintings in, Tibetan Buddhism and others, and not just Tibetan, of the Buddha always pointing at the moon.
Well, I thought the greatest conspiracy theory that Elvis is still alive living on the moon. I thought
That's a good one.
That's a good one. I mean, it's better than those sort of lasers firing down on California, being sort of authorized by the Rothschilds to start all the Californian fires. I mean, it's a sad thing, all this conspiracy theory, isn't it? Because we're now in a world where
of illusion.
We're in a world, exactly, where if you tell enough lies enough of the time, people begin to believe them.
You know who told the most lies, though, that what got us here, in my opinion? Why people believe a lot of this stuff is when your mainstream media lies to you and get caught in it. Nobody trusts the mainstream media anymore, so they're going to listen to anybody else. And that's where we're at. You can't lie. Your government lies, your media lies, and if everybody's lying, then anything's up to be believable or unbelievable.
Well, the problem is that so many people believe their lies and they become identified with them. I mean,
Yep.
I've got a friend who believes in the QAnon theory.
Oh,
and
God. Don't get
when
me
I
started.
try to talk with them, they regard it
forget
as
it.
an insult against them.
I know,
Because they've
I know.
identified themselves with that. So it's
know.
I'm attacking
Well, it's
them.
happened a lot I saw it happen a lot in the UFO community. Like people in the UFO community going down that QAnon route. I'm like, please, no, don't do it. And
But the QAnon is really a reflection of a kind of descent of consciousness in your country. It's in a big crisis. Civilizations rise and fall. And I think very challenging things are happening in your country at the moment.
I will play devil's advocate on that somewhat,
Good.
though, too, because I'm not, the whole QAnon thing drove me nuts, but it's the same. You have the same on the other political ideology. You have Antifa, you have people in Black Lives Matter, you have people doing, believing in ideologies that they don't even know what they're talking about.
It's the radical side either way.
Either way, we're being pushed to radicalization on both sides, and I say this all the time.
I quite agree.
Because you can't figure out who's really screwing you over when you're arguing with your neighbor. You're both getting screwed over, but when you're too busy yelling at each other, you don't know that you're getting screwed over. You don't know who the real problem is or the real culprit going behind the scenes, and it's a show. It's a show, and people keep falling for it on either side. And I just want to see I want to see peace. I want to see people come together and start looking at the real culprits that are screwing us over.
Well, I think we really have to that's why it's so important to find our true spiritual center and try and center in our soul and find the real self inside us, because that self does not get screwed over. That self is unchanging, unmovable, deep, profound, and it emits love and light and peace. And it's our other selves, when we're not connected with our deep self, those are the vulnerable selves that can
where you get quickly outraged
by extreme ideas.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, and I think that you have stress factors in the world right now. Inflation, we're still, I think, mentally recovering from COVID. The wars. We have all these stress factors that keep you in a stupid state. They keep us in a stupid state. Fear keeps you in a stupid state.
Yeah.
You're going to react badly if you're under fear. You're going to react badly and make stupid decisions if you're under stress.
And that's how the totalitarian dictators work, by keeping their people in fear. And that's what Donald Trump is trying to do, to stoke up terror and fear in the American people, So he is at war against his own country, trying to stoke up fear and saying, oh, the enemy is not outside, it's within, it's these terrible people. I am redeeming, I am here to give you sort of retribution against.
I agree with that. I agree that that's what he does, because I've said that from the beginning, that he also plays off the frustration of people who went to the Republican Party, that felt their livelihoods are at stake. They've wanted change. They wanted representation by their party. They of course, like a typical politician, say yes, we're with you, and then they turn around and screw him over. So he fed off of that thing. But at the same time, you have, and this is my devil's advocate to you, is on the other side, you have just as much polarization from the left, and it's gotten worse and worse, where I don't even recognize the Democratic Party anymore. So I'm not voting for either one. I'll just tell you that right now.
Well, I remember going to a conference about animal rights, and an extreme sort of lady from the far left saying that we ought to bomb all those factories that experiment with animals. And I felt that was just as violent and radical as the extreme right,
Yeah, it is. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. They use fear is the ultimate weapon. Hitler used it to rally the people. Fear and frustration. And the worst thing that scares me is that when one side goes so far, the other side goes just as far the other way. And when one of those sides gets in total power, things go to hell. And it doesn't matter what your ideology is, what your political philosophy is. It doesn't matter. Because either one is going to screw everything up. Because it's mental. It's a whole mental bullcrap. It's all meant to keep us where we're at right now, stressed out, in fear, and not thinking, and just reacting. Because they're going to present problems they want us to react to, and they're going to give us the solution they wanted the whole time. And it doesn't matter if you have a Republican, it doesn't matter if you have a Democrat. We get in the same damn wars with either. Here we are. I mean, we got Biden and we got war. I mean, if we get Trump back, he's going to give $500 billion to Ukraine. We're going to get war. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. It does not matter, because they're puppets. They're all puppets. Puppets of, very wealthy individuals like Carl Schwab, the WEF, that has an agenda.
The Koch brothers, etc.
Koch brothers, oh God, yeah. Yeah, you have different factors, and not all of them. I don't believe in the whole they're all come together in a world order conspiracy. And they're gonna do it. No, they're all greedy bastards with their own agendas, playing a chess game. You have no idea. Trump's playing checkers. These guys are playing the 3D chess. Okay. Yeah. I mean, he's not even playing checkers. He's I don't know. He's playing marbles. I don't know. He ain't playing 3D chess. People say he's playing. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about.
Well, you see, I guess that's why in my life, Jason, I chose to become a transpersonal psychotherapist, because I have people like that come as my clients. And really, it's a kind of, they're sociopaths. A lot of these super rich people are what I call sort of pathocrats.
Yeah.
That if you feel unloved, unsure of yourself inside, you have a great need for money, power, fame, and status. And there's 3 areas where you get those things. You go into crime and you become a sort of mafia boss. You go into business and become CEO of a large company, or you go into politics.
Same thing as a mafia boss.
Yeah, exactly. Like sort of Netanyahu, the criminal sort of head of Israel. So one's dealing with those kinds of issues in the world of very damaged human beings. And I guess that my dance in life is, how do we heal those damages? I try to do it through my lectures, through my writing, through having a lot of webinars that I do, a lot of seminars that I teach, and individual clients. And by the way, I want to say, if anyone who's listening to this would like to contact me and have an hour free and speak with me. You know, if I'm
Wow,
bringing
that's
up
awesome.
any issues, please contact me through my that you can get me through my website, www.sergebeddingtonbehrens.com, and I'd be
That's
happy
awesome
to
that you do that.
and I'd be happy to talk with you. Yeah.
You know, that's what I see a psychosis happening on all fronts. Like I said, I don't look at one political side and say, oh, they're all the crazy ones. No, I see crazy on all sides.
Yeah.
I see, and we've gone, and it's like one trauma after another over the last 6-7 years. You know what I'm saying? Like they're keeping us in this state. We can talk about that all night. What I want to get into, because I read some of your book, you've had some spiritual awakenings, some instances in your life that not everybody has experienced. Like, I know you had UFO in Death Valley and the ski trip that you had, like something very spiritual. I'd like to talk about those tonight. We got about a half hour till we get to a commercial break and open phone line, so I'd like to get into those before we run out of time.
Okay, ski break. Okay, I was 19 in a downhill in an international ski race because I was a hotshot skier. It was part of my Playboy thing.
An expensive sport, yeah.
Skier, sort of being a good skier attracted the girls. Okay, so I was doing this downhill race, and I approached. If you've watched sort of downhill skiing, there's big jumps, and you're going at about 80 miles an hour, and you take off, and you sort of jump for about 80 meters, and then you land, and I mean, it's pretty hairy. But in the 60s, they didn't have the neat fencing at the side of the piste. So, you know, if you go off, you crash into the sort of fencing and you're okay. And I got too far on the right and I realized I was going to take off and land in rocks. And I just had this instance that was the end of Serge, when suddenly in the air, I felt soft music around. I felt a higher state of consciousness. I felt a kind of liquid softness enfold me and take me and turn me around very slowly in the air and put me down. And I heard music and I felt a great loving presence. And I had the intuition, hey, dude, this ain't your time. Only I had it in spiritual language. I'm just sort of
an inner knowing. Yeah, an inner knowing of, hey, dude.
And I landed perfectly. I did the whole of the rest of the race in slow motion. I had all the time. I was going so slowly. And at the end, I was 1 second, less than a second behind the winner, who was a professional skier. I was not a professional skier. And so, like, you know, something had happened. I didn't realize it as a sort of spiritual awakening, but it was an awakening.
It's almost like a near-death experience. I mean, even though you didn't get in the accident.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, a sort of near-death experience.
Yeah.
And then before I knew anything about mysticism, I would ski, you know, down mountains in the powder snow. And I would feel as if I was being skied and there was no connection and there was no separation between Serge, the skier, the act of skiing and the snow. And we were all one. And it was like an extraordinary state of consciousness. And
you're in the zone.
I was in the zone and I didn't have to sit in meditation, but it was a moving state of consciousness. So that's why sort of often in my life, through sport and through, you know, physical activities, I've often found.
A lot of athletes talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, they talk about being in the zone, you know, like they get in this place, they can't explain it. And time slows just like you explained it, you know, for them. And you can watch some of these, Michael Jordan or, you know, some of these people over the years that have just done incredible things in their athleticism that they do get into some kind of zone.
The extraordinary thing, you know, Pele, the great sort of football player, sort of people who would play against
Soccer for us
Pele.
U.S. people.
Yeah. Sort of people who play against Pele would say that he'd be in front of them and suddenly he'd vanish and he'd be behind them and they wouldn't have a chance to tackle him. You know, in other words, he'd do a quantum leap. He'd move through, he'd move from one space to another without going through the stuff in between. And I think that that is maybe what's being asked of all of us. How can we all, Jason, live more in the zone? Sort of how can we all touch these sacred places? Because I want to bring in the word sacred, you know, and it's not about incense burning and, oh, please, Lord, sort of buy me a Mercedes-Benz. It's not about that. It's about sort of living in a humble, simple, good, connected to nature, connected to animals, sort of loving your fellow human being space. That's the sacred space. And I think that that's what we're all called for. And actually what I see you do, because you come from a beautiful space, Jason, I can really feel it. And you do a lot of good and healing with your consciousness. So it's very nice to be talking with you because I feel that you come from that space.
You know, the closest thing I have to your experiences, and I've talked to unended them on this show, is my shadow person experience, where I was brought to the brink of my sanity by a dark force, you could say. Some people call it demon. I don't quantify it. But the last night I had of this thing torture me, I was lifted up off my bed, levitated. And, you know, at the third time it lifted me off after throwing me down, it lifted me back up. And I just thought in my head, God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, God. Please help me. And this bright light filled the room. And it was like time slowed. And I felt the most overwhelming, compassionate love. I call it the force. I don't know. But in that, there was no more judgment. Like all my past, all my future, there was no judgment. It's like knowing that there's somebody there. I'm always with you is the feeling. There's no words. It's just a knowing that this power, this energy, this force, this entity of some kind, God, is always with me. And it's always with everyone. And there's no judgment on anyone.
And
this is just a journey.
Grace. Exactly. It's the amazing grace that I have found sort of with me that has pulled me out of really difficult places. For example, I was in a foreign country, staying in a hotel. I just met a couple also staying in a hotel. I'd had dinner with them that night. I was going to have a coffee with them in the morning. I got up in the morning. I was terribly ill, high fever and everything. So I sent a message to the people, I can't meet you, I'm ill. So the guy was a doctor and he came to see me and he was a specialist in a rare tropical disease that I'd caught. So I immediately got the right treatment, and if I hadn't, I could have died. That's an example of the synchronicities that can happen when, I like to use the word, the force is with us. But we need to have the good force. We need to have the good force.
Yeah.
We've got to be in a place where the force will be with us. If we live
always
a dishonest life, we'll have a force with us, but it won't be the force. It won't be the
dark side.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's what I even put on the census once. My religion was Jediism. I've always grown up spiritually open. I've studied Buddhism, Christianity, mysticism, and for me, the best explanation goes back to my childhood of Yoda on Dagobah, talking about the Force. To me, that's my spiritual guru. When I felt that power, when I was saved, that's what it is. It's a force. It's not some guy on a cloud looking over us and judging us. This is like a force of life and love.
Yeah.
It moves the universe. That's what it's like. Just that inner knowing. And if everybody could just feel that just a little bit, I think it would change the world.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. Well, the last chapter of my book, my epilogue, I look at what's going to happen over the next 100 years, and I feel that there's going to be enough force that humanity is going to pull through, but it'll be very challenging.
The darkest of times, right?
Because I think, just as in our personal journeys, Jason, our old encrusted patterns need to die in order for new parts of us to be born and to hatch themselves. So I think this has to happen with our political and economic systems that are based on the wrong values. I think they have gradually to wind down. And because through crisis we grow. In my own life, it's been the crises that have helped me to move through into new places. And it's like sort of Mephistopheles said to Faust, I am forever evil who does forever good. And I pondered on that. And I think that, yes, that the dark side exists in order to challenge us. If there were no dark side, where would all the shamans, where would the
agree with that 100%.
Where would the Nelson Mandelas be? Is that we need our spiritual challenges. And so we find these challenges in the dark side, including our own dark side, our own vanity and selfishness and sort of egotism, and the dark side out in the world.
I mean, yeah, if you're given a life of posh or whatever, and you don't have to make any drastic changes or choices or risk, and you can just live a total pampered life, then yeah, you don't learn anything.
But also you're cut off from the real world, so you don't
empathize, relate.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what I said. So the main thing I'm trying to teach my kid is empathy. Just to put themselves in other people's shoes, and that's why we're for. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, Jason, it's the problem with most of our world leaders that they're left brain and not right brain, and they lack empathy. They lack the ability to feel into other people and see what they need. And empathy and altruism and love are so important. My first book was about awakening the heart. And that's the key thing, I think, to the spiritual life, is to awaken the heart. And again, the heart can often awaken through big crises. So I love the way that you're teaching your kids to be empathic. And the best way that you teach them is through your example. I think we get taught by examples. The people who've taught me have been wise people, and I've seen them operate with kindness and humility, not the things they've said, but the quality of their
action.
Being. And it's the quality of our being that I think is so important. So that's kind of what I've tried to work on in my life.
We need
that's where the grace lies. Yeah.
We need it as a society. The materialism. I feel like we're reaching a peak of materialism, like the Instagram and the social media and all this, the objects and stuff and crap, and we have influencers and all this stuff is getting so preponderous. And people are getting caught up, and there's so much in their own crap that we're going to have a breakdown. A spiritual awakening is what my hope. People have had enough of the fake people idolizing Hollywood or putting their hopes in stupid politicians, and a final breakdown of who am I? Who's my neighbor? Who are we? Why are we here? Asking the big. Why I don't get about society and people. So many people are going around like zombies, not asking the big questions, not thinking about the things I think about. Maybe I'm weird. I don't know. But it's how?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, because the social media, it trivializes us. It keeps us away from depth. It gives us little sound bites that are sort of sexy and exciting.
It also makes us self-absorbed.
Yeah.
That's the problem I see. Like, I think one of the biggest awakenings I had for myself, we talk about awakenings, is realizing in my early 20s, when I met my wife, actually, that I was not, and what really did this to me was having two different dreams about past lives, where I actually experienced being somebody completely else, but I was them. And it made me realize that I am more than just this ego of Jason Bland. Here I am. I hate talking myself in third person, but that's the best way to, because it's like, this is an ego, a facade. And this facade is built not just by my own dislikes and likes, it's built by the expectations of all those around me who think I'm this person, who put this label or this picture or an idea or an expectation of what I'm going to do and who I'm going to be. And I fall into it. And everybody's doing this in their own way. And realizing that there's something higher, something beyond that, because this will die, this will go away. And then I am something more, something else. It's that realizing that you are more than this incarnation right now.
And that's why in my therapy work, I absolutely agree. I really blend spiritual work with psychotherapy, because I realize that the name of the game is not fixing people's personalities, but helping them to grow, and so that they can sort of operate from a higher context. And then that thing that disturbed them, this friend sort of left me, I feel so absurd, I feel so dismayed, and it's a big problem. Here's the friend who left me. It's a big problem. But if you grow and we evolve up here, this is there, but there's much more space around, so that we outgrow our problems. They still stay the same size, but we get bigger, so they get smaller, because there's a new context. And so to grow soul, which was the title of my second book, is so important. And so many psychotherapists are still in the game of fixing the ego. Yes, our egos do need fixing, but they need to be helped to evolve, because we give ego a bad name. Ego is not bad. Ego can be unhealthy, i.e. Trump, or it can be healthy. And when we have a healthy ego, it's content to step aside and not run the whole goddamn show.
Yeah.
Because something else is sort of moving us. I need my ego. It allows me to drive. It allows me to function in the world. It allows me to do things. But I don't need it to be my master. I need it to be my servant. And I guess that's where I try to help people. So it's not that we become egoless, as a lot of Hindu sort of teachers say, oh, my child, you must become egoless, and then you will be good. It's not becoming egoless. It's having a healthy ego, and then that we can evolve beyond it. Because actually, if you look at a lot of the great spiritual masters, they have big egos. I mean, they have big presences.
They have presence, yeah.
They have big presences that's part of the ego, but it's not running the show.
It's part of you. It's part of your ego is part of you. You can't just cut it off and throw it away. It is part of you, but it is not all of you, is like, I guess, the biggest realization.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if your ego is too small, you don't have enough structure around you. And that was the problem with someone like Charles Manson. He didn't have enough ego, and he was drawing down all this sort of transpersonal stuff, but he didn't have any structure inside him in order to digest it. So it went into very demonic areas.
His ego was built around the expectations, again, of the people around him.
Yeah.
He could have easily been a hippie musician that just went off and played shows and got a cult following, people that liked his music. But sad thing is, his music sucked. so he got a cult following that went really dark.
His music sucked, exactly like my music. I wanted to be a blues musician, and
you kind of have an Eric Clapton feel to you.
Well, sort of Eric Clapton's my great hero, and
I love Eric Clapton.
My only claim to fame, and here's a bit of name dropping, is that my next door neighbor was Steve Winwood, who some people don't know well, but who's a great blues player. And on my 50th birthday, I had a big party, and Steve and I played the blues together for an hour and a half. And for that hour and a half, it's kind of like if you play tennis with someone who's really good, it lifts your game. I suddenly turned into Ramblin' Boy Behrens or sort of Lightning Beddington for that hour and a half I played with Steve Winwood.
That's awesome.
It was the culmination of my life. But unfortunately, I never really graduated beyond being a 3-chord man. So anyway.
Yeah. I played in bands and guitar. Yeah, I was never a spectacular guitar player, but I think I was a good songwriter. We always talk about them. I've had guests on the show. I talk about like song and music and creation and art is all in its way, its own channeling of your higher self.
Yeah, absolutely. Sort of just look at the Beatles, what incredible creative musicians they were and how they evolved so quickly from the early days. And there was a creative coherence, and they brought through a spirituality into the world that they were absolute magicians. And you can listen to their music today, and it still brings through a kind of it brings through sort of something that is tremendously powerful.
Yeah, you don't get that in music today.
You don't get it in music today.
No.
Or in most music today. There's something that I don't want to be critical because I'm an old fogey, but I do listen to a bit of today's music, and it doesn't do it for me.
No, I still listen to old music, Beatles, Moody Blues, and it's stuff that was way before my time. I'm 45, but I like that music. That's my music. Today's music's overprocessed. There's no modulation. It's like one.
I quite agree.
Sound. It's like there's no soul. Talent. I swear when those QAnon conspiracy theorists say that all those people in Hollywood, musicians especially, sold their souls, I can kind of believe it because that's the only way I can understand how they got to where they are with the crappy music. Sorry, I'll be the old fogey for you. Crappy music, then their damn rock, kids and their rap. I just can't. All the music nowadays, I barely can stand. My kids at work, I work under me at my store, pick fun of me all the time because I'm always griping about the music.
Yeah. Sort of, what's that line in a song? Sold my soul to the company store. I can't remember it.
Was it that?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, the name of the game is not to sell our souls, but to grow our souls. That's what I'm about, Jason. That's what I try to inspire people who will read this old book, is to grow your soul. And also, I think what is key about, or sort of interesting about this book, is that I talk about my own deficiencies and how I work through them. Because a lot of spiritual memoirs are, I sort of met this guru and he told me that all is one, and so I meditated on all is one. My spiritual path was dealing with my many pathologies and my many faults, and that's what the spiritual work is about. Is that we've got to heal ourselves. We've got to heal where we feel deficient. We've got to heal where we feel inflated as a compensation. We've got to heal where we feel greedy. We've got to heal all these parts of ourselves. And so I've been very honest about my many, many deficiencies that I've actually come to see by the end of the book that they were my blessings. And I realized that where I was wounded is where I had gifts, because I think that we best help each other in areas where we personally have been wounded.
Because it's a human condition. I mean, if
Yeah.
you look at Buddhism, is to suffer. You know, we don't have to, but that is the human condition. And how can you relate to others if you don't?
Yeah.
You don't feel the same.
Yeah.
You all have. Where nobody's perfect, right? You know, and recognizing it, I think is first step in being honest with yourself is tremendously helpful to the psyche. You know, I think a lot of people are disillusioned themselves and they put themselves in serious harm when they're not honest with themselves about their motives, their intentions. And that's why I say people are like zombies. They go around reacting and feeling, but not asking, why do I react this way? Why do I feel this way? Or looking at the source of I need to get a bit more back into it, but I'm a big advocate for people to do meditation, do something spiritual, look somewhere inward. I want to talk, we got to go to commercial break, but I know you did some ayahuasca. I want to get into that because I always find that really interesting. People have experienced that. And then you also had a UFO you saw in retreat in Death Valley I'd like to get into when we come back from the commercial break.
Can I just say one terribly quick thing, that the problem with war leaders is that they have no vision, they have no understanding of what it's going to lead to. And Putin and Netanyahu started wars without any vision of what was going to happen because they were not connected to the visionary part of themselves. Okay, have the commercial break.
All right, we'll go to commercial break. We'll talk more about that when we come back with our guest, Dr. Serge Beddington-Behrens. After this commercial break, we'll also open up the phone lines when we come back and call in, ask questions of our guests after the short commercial break.
Conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift. A refreshing and fun read, I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is $42. Yes, I thought it over quite thoroughly. It is, it's 42. It would have been simpler, of course, to have known what the actual question was.
But it was the question. The ultimate question. Of everything.
That's not a question. Only when you know the question will you know what the answer means.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419. Or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Dr. Serge Beddington-Behrens. Sorry, got that wrong. Phone lines are open. Call in, ask questions of our guest. His book we're talking about tonight is Amazing Grace, Memoirs of a Transformational Journey. He's a spiritual educator, transpersonal psychotherapist. Tonight, you got questions about how to, deal with your personal issue of like trying to reach your higher self, deal with emotional issues. We only got about 5 minutes. But he's offering on his website, I'll make sure he gives that out again, an hour of his time to anybody if he wants to help you. And I think that's amazing, truly amazing for somebody to offer that kind of help, because I think lots of people sometimes just need somebody to talk to, and I try to be ear for people at times. I know people try to reach me on Facebook Messenger, don't, because I don't generally reply. But Paranormal Soup, jbland@gmail.com if you want to share your weird experiences. That I'm the guy for that. But Serge might be your guy if you want to talk more about the higher self. Check him out. All right, guys, phone lines are open. Let's go ahead and get back to our guest. Thank you for hanging in there with us, Serge. I know it's early sunrise morning for you probably, or where you're at.
Just a quick thing, that it's so sad that one has to use to describe a non-normal experience as weird, which kind of, the weird means it's kooky and stupid, but actually those experiences are simply experiences that happen in different realities. And again, like Alien is such a sort of negative word, and the word weird experience. It's just a non-normal experience. And
Yeah,
the
but
sad
non-normal
thing
doesn't
is-
sound as cool.
Paranormal. Weird. Oh.
So I don't do a lot of taglines, but that's what I got. Paranormal Soup, Worldwide Web of Weird. But it's
Hey.
here. I make it an open place that we're not judging
Yeah.
your weird. We're embracing the weird here.
Well, absolutely, the weird needs to be embraced.
I think it's your everyday experience. Lots of people are having it all the time, and they don't want to talk about it. That's why I wanted to do a show to give a place for people to talk about
I mean,
it.
fantastic that you do this. As long as people who think they're weird can realize that maybe they're experiencing a deeper dimension of their own humanity. That's what needs to happen.
Well, that's the thing. I think we're in the growing pains of, like I said, I think you reach a state of so much materialism, so much ego and self-absorption that there's going to be a counter reaction to it.
Yeah.
Of spiritual awakening, trying to reach the higher self. It's the Zen, kind of thing. The yin and yang is maybe my hope, I guess, for society. All right, we got a phone call. Let's go ahead and see who we got online because I got a couple people calling in. Who do we got on the line?
Hey, it's Adrian from Connecticut.
Adrian, thanks for calling in.
Good evening, all. Hey, I was wondering if, as a therapist, did you find any trends with clients that coordinated with world events, be it idiosyncrasies or fear-triggered psychosis, etc.?
Like a collective consciousness thing, are you getting at?
Just common responses to what's going around. It could be a collective consciousness. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, Adrian, I do feel that what is happening in the world is impacting upon us all, because as part of the whole, we feel what's going on in the whole. And I've had clients with a lot more fear and sorrow at this moment that I'm sure is connected in some ways with the wars that are going on at this time. Although
wars and economic stress.
Wars and economic stress and health stress. And
Health
if you're
stress,
a
yes.
sensitive person, well, then you take it on and you feel it inside yourself. And a lot of people are picking up stuff that they don't know, sort of what it's about, and they think it's their pain, but actually it is a bit their pain, but it's also the pain of the larger
the collective
human collective, because humanity as a collective, as one being, we're suffering, and you and I are little bitty parts of that suffering, and each of us take it on in our different ways, I think. I don't know if
Yeah,
that
that's why
answer
it's so
helps.
important. It's so important to develop spiritually. Me, I'm doing good. I actually find all this exciting.
Good,
and
fantastic,
I'm doing
Adrian.
good. 'cause-
Great, I'm so glad
All right,
you're
well,
doing
thanks.
good. Hey, yeah, so sort of keep on doing good.
I will. Absolutely. Thanks for
Hey.
your answer. I'll let someone
Yeah.
else get a chance to talk. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adrian.
Bye, Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, war is awful. And, you were talking about Putin before the break. And I agree with you. I mean, he's a dictator who's poisoned his enemies, imprisoned his enemies, imprisoned journalists, is horrible to the gay community in Russia. Not a fan of Putin, but at the same time, not a fan of the U.S. government, our involvement in it, or the last two presidential administrations. Trump gave weapons to neo-Nazi groups in Ukraine, and then Biden doubled down. And we did everything we could to make sure this war would happen because, there's military contracts that got to be filled. We're always in some kind of war. And I was saying it before the show that the CIA, they don't have the best interests of this country at their heart. Their interest is money. And getting military contracts because it's a revolving door for generals and CIA, NSA. They work for the government and then they go work for a military contractor or vice versa. And they make sure all their buddies get paid. And the only way that happens is if we have war.
Do you remember the neocon sort of big saying?
Oh, yeah. The neocons are... how are they still around? But they are.
Perpetual war, that we need perpetual
like Terror
war.
in Newland. Yeah.
That we need perpetual war for perpetual peace.
Yep. The stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's where we're at. And people don't realize, I look at it this way, I'm saying, forget Putin aside, Russia as a country, they have good reason to be worried about Ukraine. That is where they've been invaded more than once, is through Ukraine. And we made promises, NATO, us, we wouldn't get any closer to them. We wouldn't try to impinge or put on their borders or whatever. Ukraine was the last straw. Okay? My opinion, we did everything we could to make sure this war happened, just from what I've seen. And you can disagree with me or not, but Putin's a dictator, fine. There are a dime a dozen in this world. There's a ton of dictators, but we pushed to make sure this dictator invaded this country. We wanted to make sure that happened so we can be in a war. I know people right now in the service, they're getting ready. They're getting told they're going to get pulled to go fight there. That our numbers are way too low for it, too. That they're going to have to do something, military draft. I'm hearing this from people in the service. Okay? We're not supposed to be going, troops aren't supposed to be going there, right? I thought this was just, we're going to give them money and aid. No. This is how it just, Vietnam, this is the same thing. It's getting drawn right back in. Afghanistan, Iraq. We keep doing the same stupid thing over and over. We don't
own ammunition and weapons and artillery and tanks and everything.
I guess all those military contractors are going to get new contracts, right? Yeah. It's the same. I mean, even Mitch McConnell said the honest part out loud. When people are asking him, hey, what about we're in all this debt as a country, we're giving all this money to Ukraine. He's like, oh, don't worry. That goes all the way back to our military contractors. He literally said that out loud. He said the quiet part out loud. Oh, yeah, don't worry. That goes back to American businesses, military contractors. Lockheed, Raytheon, Boeing. Yeah, great. Thanks. Yeah, that helps the little guy. Real lot, We're all getting in debt, but they got plenty of money to print out to make sure they can fund these wars. We just got out of Afghanistan. We had to make sure we got back into another war. And then Netanyahu created his freaking problem, and he knew it. He basically pushed out the PLO by helping create Hamas because he wanted a bigger, scarier terrorist group that they could just say, oh, make them animals and wipe them all out. Again, military-industrial complex completely tied into Israel and the Palestine conflict. We keep making the same stupid mistakes, but it's not mistakes. They're intentional. Like I said, my worldview doesn't make anybody happy on the political aisles because I don't like either. And it's all, to me, a manipulation scheme to make sure their buddies get paid. And it doesn't matter who dies. Yeah, it doesn't matter who dies. I mean, how many people have died now in Ukraine? How many Russians have died? How many people, Israelis and Palestinians have died? That doesn't matter to these people. Not a damn bit. And it never will. It never will. Because they're just numbers on a board. That ain't the numbers they care about. They care about this numbers, the money they're making from it. And then after Ukraine, after we've blown it up and destroyed it, then they get to make a bunch of money rebuilding it. They've already basically indebted all their farmland to corporations to pay off for this war. They're already screwed. They're already screwed. Even if they somehow won this war, they own nothing. This is a typical bullcrap that we pull all around the world. And I'm not saying just as us as a country. There are good people within the U.S. government that want to do good. There are patriots. There are people that want to try to help. But there is this overwhelming force. I call it the corporation because it's a bunch of corporations all out for their own ends.
I think it's a mindset that one gets caught into and that operates through one, and one becomes part of the operation of the system.
Yeah.
Of a system that actually destroys everything and everyone in it, including the rich, because they're going to be sort of victims of their own greed when the larger collapse happens. And so what's the antidote? The antidote is soul consciousness, the growth of soul, because soulful people don't want wars. As Thich Nhat Hanh, the great peace activist, said,
yes, Peace is Every Step, one of my favorite books. Small book, but good.
It's a wonderful book, and he said we all have war inside us, not just the generals. And I think that that's an important part.
Yep.
So that war happens because of all the reasons that you say, Jason, that I think you put very eloquently. But it also happens because we, the ordinary person in the street, carry traumas, we have wounds, we have hostility, we have hatred, and we haven't worked it through. So when we, the people of the world, work through our stuff, the world will less be a space for the bad guys, if you want to call it, who don't see themselves as bad guys because they're part of the system, where the bad guys will be less moved to get on with their shenanigans. So somehow all of us in the world, the more we bring love and peace and kindness and those transpersonal values into operation, the more peace we bring into the world, the less it'll be a space for war. And maybe that there was, I think it was called the Belfast sort of moment when in Northern Ireland, suddenly the IRA said, I'm fed up with all this death and killing, we'll put down our weapons. And it happened quite spontaneously. It was a very interesting thing. Maybe people will get tired of dying. And the point is that the women of the world don't want war. The women of the world don't want, especially if they're mothers, they don't want their sons to be killed. And I think
I agree,
that the important thing we're also seeing in the world, and I talk about it in my book, is the emergence of the powerful feminine, the emergence of a new sort of feminine consciousness, which is the antidote to the patriarchy that is all about killing and murder and,
control, power and control.
And power and control. And I think that the women of the world are going to heal the planet. And I'm very positive about that, because women don't want war.
Most
the wives
women
of these dictators.
But I agree.
Most
mothers.
Women, most women. Some have become a bit patriarchalized.
I mean,
like
I won't get into it. I won't get into it. No. I have a image in my mind. I can't.
Let's get into it, because I know what you're going to get into, and I would as well. But let's keep with the positive. Let's keep with Amazing Grace.
Yes, exactly. But I'll just say, one of the things is being a parent. You say mothers. As a father, I don't want more. Being a parent opened my eyes to so many things. Because before I was a parent, I was ready to sit back, smoke a joint, watch the world burn, and laugh and go, "I told you so." But then I had a kid, and it's like, dear God, the world's gonna burn. The worry and anxiety really hit in. I had some anxiety issues after my first child was born, because all that caught up with me. All the I didn't care about any of it anymore. I just screw it. The things are the way they are, and I don't care. What am I gonna do? And then I have a kid. I'm like, I gotta do something. Kids are a catalyst. If you have, my father couldn't give a crap. He took off. My biological father did not give a crap about me. But so some people don't care when they have kids. But I think most people, they see this creation, this life come into this world that came from them, and they want to protect that. And that gives them a stake in what's going on, gives them a care. So I'm for people responsibly having children at a good age. Too many young kids having children, but I think I don't trust. I'll put it this way: I don't trust people who don't have children. that are way older, making big, powerful decisions for everybody, and they don't have any children, kind of makes me uncomfortable. Maybe it's a bias, but it's like, you don't have anything at stake. You had no children? What happened to you? I know that's horrible. That's a way to think, but that's how I am, man. If they didn't have children and they're in like, you know, they're in their 60s or 70s and they're in some powerful position, they made a lot of money and they're making decisions for everybody, I'm a little worried. Because what stake do they got in the future? I mean, that's what it is. Our children are our future. If you don't have, you know, if you're making all these powerful decisions, have all this money, you don't have any children, I'm a little concerned. I'm not saying people have to have children. I'm just saying if you have no stake in the future, I'm a bit concerned. I'm talking about there's some powerful people that if you look, they don't have any children. There's powerful people that I think are pretty bad that have children too, and it makes me wonder why they do the things they do, but. Because they're bringing us close to ending it all. I mean, you have a kid. I mean, I don't know how that changed your life.
Absolutely. The best thing I ever had.
Exactly.
Best thing I ever did. Got a beautiful... Yeah, here's my little daughter.
You said she's 24 now?
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah,
see, and then you get to be a grandparent eventually, and that's even more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's something, I'm just saying, like, my hope in life isn't a lot of luxury or wealth or any of that. I don't, my hope in life is just to live long enough, old enough to see my kids grow up to be happy and get to see some grandkids. If I get that on my deathbed and I live to be an old man for that, I will be like, life was great.
Well, I tell you, Jason, you're doing, I think, in life, a great problem for so many people is that unlike you, they're not doing the thing that their souls and hearts want them to do. You're a good speaker. You voice your ideas very eloquently, and they're thought out ideas. And you're doing your thing. You're doing your dance. As the shamans would say, you're dancing your dream awake. I'm doing it as well. I'm doing what I love to do. And sort of, for both of us, we use the voice as a form of communication. I think the painful thing in the world is those people who, through fault lines in society, not, as the wealthy people say, because of their own internal sort of weaknesses, through fault lines in society, they're not able to do what they want to do. And that's the painful thing in the world. I think, sort of people who have to go to work, and there's probably a lot of you listening to this program, and my heart goes out to you. Through fault lines in society, you're probably having to do work that does not make your heart sing, and you have a family to feed and look after, and so you're needing to do this. And I think that that's one of the things that hopefully will begin to change at some point in the future when things collapse a little bit, because I think the world has to do a bit more collapsing, and it's on the way. And I think that we need to not fear the collapse, but rather celebrate it, knowing that something that doesn't work needs to die in order that something new that brings greater life will come into place. So let's honor the collapse of certain things. Sort of civilizations come and go, and they grow and then they die. And things are not working. We're more aware now than ever of what isn't working in the world. And my new dear friend Jason has just put it, sort of very eloquently.
I don't feel like anything that ever comes out of my mouth is eloquent, but thank you.
You are my new dear friend, Jason. You are my new dear friend.
Well, thank you.
I
It's
like
nice to
you
be your
very
friend
much.
too.
I feel touched and I feel close to you. But you put it very eloquently. What isn't working? Well, it's slowly beginning to collapse, and I think we need
so.
to go with it and sort of hold hope for the future. I want to operate out of a place where I see what's inappropriate with the world, and I hold hope that a better world is going to rise phoenix-like out of the ashes.
It's always
That's my
darkest before the
vision.
dawn, right?
It's always darkest before the dawn. And as I find with clients I work with, when they come to me and it's really dark and they're miserable, I say, take that pain into your heart. They take their pain into their heart. I say, stay with it. Oh, it hurts. Oh, it hurts. I say, stay with it, stay with it. And then gradually, because the heart is the great alchemical transmuter of base metal into gold, the darkness will begin to shift and suddenly the light will come. But we've got to feel the darkness, we've got to feel the pain, and too many of us are trying to avoid the pain because it hurts so much and we don't know that we have to go into it. It's like a bad psychedelic trip.
We got to get into the ayahuasca. I don't know if you had a bad psychedelic.
You've got to get into the ayahuasca. Okay.
I'm really interested in that because I my days of experimenting with that kind of stuff are kind of gone. I don't think I could ever do it, but I am interested in it because I do believe that these things can. I mean, like Don Juan by Carlos Castaneda. You know, I'm a huge fan of that. You know, that the idea that these things can kind of microdosing can kind of open your mind to other realms. I think I've seen it without microdosing, but I am really interested in your experience with this. Like, you know, what happened when you were, how did you get involved with ayahuasca?
Well, I think if taken in a wise way.
Yeah.
Look, what always emerges in the world when new wounds arise, new sort of methodologies of being able to heal them also arrive. And there's a lot of very, very, very deep trauma in many, many people that can't ordinarily be reached by ordinary therapeutic sort of methodologies. I think the psychedelic revolution, as long as it's not taken to get high in a hippie way, you know, you
like
go
the
to
only way I
Burning
would
Man
ever
festival and you get high sort of with every. That's not it. But if taken in a wise setting,
in a spiritual setting,
in a spiritual setting, and a wise guy, and you have a shaman with you to really oversee everything, then I think it can be in. I mean, all these new old psychedelics, but sort of coming into view, are extremely important. I mean, sort of ketamine is being used to help people who are psychotic, is being very effective. Sort of psilocybin has been used for people with very, very deep depression that, you know, ordinary drugs.
They're trying to legalize it in a number of states for therapy.
Yeah. I mean, why was it illegalized for so many years? I mean, Alan Watts had the answer in the 60s. Why was it all closed down? Because you were joyful, because it made you
worked.
That's joyful, and it worked. And the old system is based on non-joyfulness.
Yes.
But the world that you've been sort of talking about, the bad guys.
Don't get me started on the pharmaceutical industry.
They're joyless human beings. They're joyless human beings. And so joy is a threat because you can't be controlled if there's joy in your heart. And that's why there's a reaction of the old traditional school against people like me and you who are sort of advocating a new consciousness. because it's threatening to the old system. And so there's a battle going on between those who want to keep the old system alive and those who want to birth a new system. And
do you get a lot of pushback as a psychotherapist? I mean, you're the way you are, the way I love it, bringing in the spiritual aspect to your therapy.
I wanted to
getting
say,
a lot of. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah.
I saw an article actually earlier today from People magazine where Christy Teigen had gone through it and saw her late baby.
Oh,
Jack,
like microdosing?
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it.
What, ayahuasca?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, my experience, I've read articles of people who've been enormously helped by sort of microdosing. I mean, my journey in ayahuasca, I took a year and I became a member of what's called the Daime Church in London that has grown up around the shamanic use of ayahuasca, and it's a mixture of Christianity and shamanism. And every other weekend for a year, I would go and have a weekend of working with ayahuasca. And we had a shaman present from the Brazilian jungle, an old man who'd be there to oversee. And that's the important thing.
Yeah, this isn't a party. This is
not
a
a
spiritual
party.
journey. Yeah.
Because these substances are very powerful, and they can awaken, but they can also have sort of negative effects if they're taken unwisely.
But when you have like a bunch of drug laws and stuff coming down on it, and you try to criminalize it, then it becomes an underbelly thing, and kids don't get the education they need to have to know what they're doing and screw around with this stuff for horrible consequences.
I mean, my experience sort of working with ayahuasca was to really, I wanted to know how the universe worked, and I wanted to see if all the things I'd read in books about how God operated were true. And you move into high states of consciousness and you realize that there is a divine sacred force, that there is an intelligence in life, that there is a loving presence in life, and that we can align to this loving presence, and that there's a great purpose in the evolution of humanity. So that's what I really learned, and it was extremely powerful. And I also got to see, excuse me, I've got this frog in my throat as well.
Oh, me too. I hear you.
And I also got to see that there were sort of many dimensions of life, because you meet other entities on your ayahuasca journeys. And I met sort of some entities who, as it were, saw me, and they felt sort of much more evolved than me, and they would open up their consciousness to me. And I realized that we live in a world of many universes, of many dimensions of existence, and that there's beings from sort of many different realms. And
I have a question about that when you're finished.
Yes, please.
Do you think when you're in that state, it's possible for your loved ones, they come to you in your dreams when you're in a dream state? I was watching a session where a girl was having this done, and in the beginning she was, really happy. Then she started having a little bit of stress when she saw her father. She didn't get to say goodbye to him, but the way she was saying, okay, goodbye, the way she was communicating, because she was talking out loud, seemed as if she was legitimately communicating with maybe a spirit, like a family member or something. Do you think it's easier for that to happen when you're in that state, to have spirit communication or family come talk to you?
That's a great question, yeah.
I think that when your consciousness opens up, then you have sort of contact to realities that are beyond space and time, and you have access to a much wider sort of universe, to a multiverse, let's call it a multiverse. And in that multiverse, that you can have all sorts of experiences and yes, and you can certainly, like in the near-death experience, that you meet your own relatives, you go through the tunnel of light, and then you go at the end and you meet your parents or your good friends who've passed over, and they say, well, it's nice to meet you, but actually you need to go back into life. Yes, I absolutely believe that. And I mean, certainly sort of great mediums, because there's a lot of sort of fakery and sort of trickery in the paranormal world, but the real authentic mediums and psychics, they absolutely do contact. They do help people make contact with those.
We've done it. We've had them on. I've had several mediums, and on the show, Katrina Cooper being my number one. I mean, she has people call in, and she's done it live on the show. That
fantastic.
She knows things, that she's getting communication. My family members have called in, and she's done it for them, and she has no idea who they are. No way of knowing. But she's communicating with something that is probably their relative on the other side.
I mean, I feel that there's many different sort of levels of life, and that the name of the game is how can we live concretely in this world and touch into the higher dimensions of creativity, and how can we touch into them and bring them down concretely into the world so that we make a difference in the world, but sort of coming from this level instead of coming from this level. So I kind of find I'm not someone who tunes into entities or sort of have beings communicate through me, but I do find that when I do my work and I teach my seminars or write my books, I do feel connected into a higher consciousness. That's all I'll say. A consciousness that's wiser than silly little old Serge.
Yeah, I've had that experience.
Little old Serge can sort of tune into a deeper consciousness which can come through me and inspire me. Like, I don't know how I write my books because I have very bad ADHD, so I can't organize anything. So somehow my things get organized, and I don't know how because I'm the most disorganized person that's ever existed. But somehow it gets organized, and it's
maybe you can help me figure out how to write a book because I've been trying, and that's my problem.
They say the most brilliant minds are.
Well, dear Jason, you're busy doing this. That's very important, and continue this work. It's fantastic. Paranormal Soup. Yeah. Don't drown in it.
Yeah. No, I've been doing it for 8 years, and it's my outlet because I drive people I work with or family members nuts with me trying to talk about paranormal weird stuff. That's paranormal weird. That's how they view it. That's why I say it. But, so I needed a place to communicate or commune with others with the same interests.
Yeah.
This is my church on Sunday.
Well, good.
My spiritual church.
Our soul family here.
Yeah, I get to meet wonderful and talk to wonderful people like you, and I get to read awesome books, and I don't make any money doing this. I do it because I love it. I only have time. I can do it one day a week. I wish I could do it more. I really wish I could, but family, work, bills, that kind of deal. That's you were talking earlier. I always say this. When I was in my early 20s, I really got into like meditation, seeing auras, and really like getting kind of spiritual. I was really full of myself because I look at it back in it now. I was like I said, I'm like, why isn't everybody else? Why can't you, let go of the ego and get spiritual and like why? And then I became an adult and realized, oh yeah, this is why, because I got to work and pay bills, and this is really hard. When you're young and you hit that, there's a little spot. If you do get spiritual, you think, oh yeah, I'm get enlightened and meditate all the time, and then you hit the real world hits you, and you realize this is why people are having trouble awakening?
Well, dear Jason, our challenge is to move beyond adulthood. I think, I can't remember who said that being a grown-up, a person who defines himself as grown-up is someone who stopped growing. I'm still in the process of trying to become an adult. That's a real
Accused of that.
human being. You know, I'm still far down the ladder, but I'm trying to grow. And I don't want to be an adult in that
I don't
sense.
either.
So our challenge is sort of how can we embrace these higher worlds, but bring them down in a concrete way so we pay the mortgage, so we sort of recycle our stuff, so we sort of help our neighbors next door
Do the
who
dishes.
need to do the dishes, and we help the old ladies cross the road. So that's the challenge, is not to get stuck up there or stuck down here, but sort of dance between all these realities. And I think that that's our challenge. But you're not an adult yet, and nor am I. And most of us are not yet adults, but, you know, sort of the Ramakrishnas and the Buddhas are adults. But, you know, we're kind of sort of dancing our way there.
Maybe badly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like, you know, you mentioned Thich Nhat Hanh. I was a huge fan of Thich Nhat Hanh. I have a lot of his books. Old Path, White Clouds is still one of my all-time favorite books. But the Pieces Every Step, I have that book, and I preach that to my kids, you know, all the time. You know, I try to teach them, like, and it's something I have to remind myself. It's like, I'm not perfect. I react and get angry and judge others. Yes, exactly. Thich Nhat Hanh. Well, I try to teach them, you know, like they get mad at another friend or somebody else or whatever, and I try to get them to look at, well, maybe you don't know what they're going home to. But at the same time, your reaction or how you acted towards them, was that an act that asked for peace? Or was it an act that asked for more aggression or more trouble or more vile, you know, or was it an act towards trying to make peace? Doesn't matter, you know, it's like, it doesn't matter what they do. It's like the biggest lesson I'm trying to teach them is like, it doesn't matter what some other people do. It only matters what you do. You're only in control of what you do. And if you want peace, you have to make the steps for it. And I think that was like the greatest lesson of Thich Nhat Hanh. And he didn't need a big book to explain that. It's a very small book for Pieces Every Step. And I think it's one of the most brilliant books he ever wrote.
The thing that's been important for me is to have hung around in my life some truly wise people, because then
Papa G, I've seen that in your
yes, is that if you hang around wise people, that something of their emanations can rub off on one. And I think that that's why the great potters, if they've had sort of students who've been apprenticed sort of with them to learn about pottery, that they often suggest the student lives with them for 6 months before they start doing any sort of, you know, sort of learning to make pots, because they need to absorb the atmosphere of the great potter, and then that they can begin to operate in his model. And I try to, in my life, hang out with as many wise people as possible. Not that it's rubbed off that much on me, but
well, I think people do need a model or a mentor or something in their life.
And we have the wrong models. Look, it's not as if our footballers and sort of top models and film stars.
That's the problem. They're not good models.
Are not decent people because they are, and I have nothing against them, but we shouldn't deify them. And the problem is that we've made the wrong things into sacred, that we've trashed the real sacred things, and we've made the profane into our sacred world. I mean, I think it's very interesting that in the Middle Ages, the centerpiece of every big city was the church. The centerpiece of every big city today are the big banks. That's
the church.
That's the church. That's what we've made.
That's
into
a great
our
point.
gods.
Yeah.
And so our challenge is to re-sacralize. How do we bring a real sense of the sacred back into our daily lives? And it's not through doing the huge sort of paraphernalia of incense and candles, but it's just sort of living simply and kindly and, honoring your neighbor, being, trying to be kind to people who live next door, and sort of seeing people who don't feel secure about themselves, sort of trying to be helpful to them and trying to live in a simple and ordinary way. And that's why my spiritual teachers have always been these kind of simple people like Papa G.
What was Papa G like?
Papa G, I've got a picture of him somewhere. Yes, here.
I get the screen on you.
Yeah, sort of Papa G was just very simple and he had a wonderful energy field. I stayed for about 4 months in his ashram, and he told me to do nothing but just be there and be. And he taught me about being. And he just had an extraordinary radiance about him, but there was nothing grandiose, that he wasn't one of these cooking people like Osho or Darfree John or that Cohen guy or sort of Andrew Cohen, who I think are all gurus who sort of bypassed their emotional issues, and they perhaps became enlightened in their minds, but not in their personalities. Because there's a lot of rogue sort of gurus, treading the streets.
Oh God, yeah. Trust me, I know.
And about 20 years ago, I did some research into the top 10 sort of gurus that were well known, and I discovered that they were about 80% more sexually deviant than the ordinary.
Well, it's like George Harrison when he went. What's the guy's name? So he wrote "Sexy Sadie" about
the Maharishi.
Maharishi. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Thank you. Like, he hears all these great things. He's definitely looking for spiritual. I mean, George Harrison, awesome, one of the best musicians of our time, was a very spiritual person. And they say, don't meet your heroes. Read about what happened when he met that guy. The guy was a sexual deviant. And I think George Harrison was really let down.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a so-called sort of crazy wisdom tradition that certain gurus do insane things to try to wake you up. And sort of
or cult leaders.
Or occult leaders. And I've got a chapter in my book of what to look out for if you're on a spiritual path. And I mentioned that you need to sort of watch out for false gurus, occult leaders, and so-called life coaches who sort of take you into deep water but won't help you from drowning.
That's a great way of putting it.
Because there's a lot of cowboys and cowgirls out there. And I've encountered sort of quite a lot of them sort of in my life who use a lot of glamour around them. I'll just say a thing about glamour that there's a lot of people who sort of glamorize themselves nowadays with sort of great, sort of feathers and plumage and, and wonderful, and
or a lot of titles, stuff that they throw in there.
or I'm
Yeah.
channeling George Harrison, or whatever it is. You see, I mean, a person who really would channel George Harrison would not boast about it. I mean, I'm just saying that as an example. And I think, you know, and I'm talking to your audience, sort of be aware of the cowboys and the false prophets, because they're there. And I've bumped into them, and I've been knocked on the head by them in my life. And so so I want to warn you.
No, it's great you have that warning, because it is a danger for people starting to awaken spiritually. They're looking for a mentor. They're looking for answers, and it's easy.
And one of the dangerous things that's happening at the moment is a lot of people are setting themselves up as psychedelic guides. And you go somewhere, and a person has not been trained how to deal with someone on a psychedelic trip, and you pay a lot of money, and you go into a dark place, your shadow comes up, and they don't know how to deal with it because the setting is wrong. And so sort of just sort of keep your eyes open and sort of listen with your heart if what the person you're encountering, if they feel genuine or not. Alan Watts, a book was written about Alan Watts called Genuine Fake. And actually there's a lot of people who propose to be genuine, but they're not really, because one can put it on.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's been going on for thousands of years with people.
I mean, sort of, I was one of those people. You know, in my 30s, I learned a bit of shamanism, and I came back, and you know, and I had a big sort of moustache, very long hair, and you know, and a cloak, and I sort of carried a staff, and the girls loved it, you know, and I thought I was this great shaman who was sort of helping the world, you know, until some good friends of mine said, you know, Serge, get off your bullshit. You're not.
That's what friends are for.
You know, that's what friends are for.
They're honest with you.
You're not, you know, we're not falling for all that stuff. But I thought that I was this great person who come to heal the world. And this can often happen to you if you touch a little bit of spirituality, that you can get sort of overrun by what Jung called the Christ complex, and you believe that you're a wonderful person who's the only person who's come to save the world, and all these other stupid people around you are nothing, but you've come to save everyone. That is a dangerous place. It's the inflated ego. When the ego gets hold of a spiritual sort of message and it uses it for its own egoic purposes, instead of allowing the spirituality to absorb the ego and lift the ego up, the ego takes it and uses it for its own purposes. So, you know, these are some of the challenges that the seeker meets on his or her path. But I think the big challenges where our spiritual initiations where we encounter our spiritual initiations today is in all the challenges out in the world. In the past, the initiate would go to caves and pyramids and mountaintops to hide from the big bad world. Now, our spiritual challenge is how can we grow and use the difficulties in the world to help our spiritual evolution? Sort of the difficulties with the mortgage, the difficulties with finding good schools for our children, the difficulties of the noisy neighbors, the difficulties of those who don't like us because they think we're weird. How do we deal with all that? These are our spiritual challenges, and they're out in the world. So this is how we grow, or that's the path that I teach anyway, that we grow in the world through dealing with all these these difficulties, which I see, Jason, is your challenge, you know? And,
yeah, I mean, as I was saying, right before I met my wife, I was ready to like go off to a Buddhist monastery, like give up everything. I was done with women. I was done with the material world. I was give up all my possessions. I'm asked my mom. I was totally looking up Buddhist monasteries. I was going to do it. Thank God I met my wife. Thank you, God. Because, life is about living and experiencing, not hiding away in a monastery. I would have never reached enlightenment or spiritually grown there. I'm not saying that some people that does work. For me, no.
For some people, it's right for them.
Right.
For some people, it's right. But for other people, it's not. We've got to find the path that's right, because there's many paths that we can choose. I think my path is the path of heart. I feel myself as a heart man. I try to help people.
I feel like you want to be a friend to the world. Like you want to be a friend, a mentor or a friend to people.
Yeah.
Which is an awesome thing to be. Yeah.
But I mean, some people are on the path of knowledge or sort of magic or ceremonial magic and ritual, and some people are on the path of science. And they bring great scientific knowledge into the world. It's not my path, but we need to find what our path is. That's the thing, and not try to copy other people in their paths. And so it's a gradual process of unfolding and giving birth to new dimensions of ourselves all the time.
We're going to go to our last commercial break. We got like a half hour left. And guys, the phone lines will be back open when we come back if you want to call in. I had somebody else trying to call in earlier, but then it dropped them for some reason. So whoever that was after the commercial break, try to call in.
Questions. I'm happy to answer some questions.
Either way, or we can take some from the chat room if you got any in there too. All right, we're going to go to our last commercial break. We'll be back after this short commercial break with our guest, Dr. Serge Beddington. How do you say the last name? I keep screwing. Behrens. Sorry, I should have just asked you before. Behrens. I've been butchered it all night. So sorry. Dr. Serge Beddington-Behrens tonight is our guest. We're talking about his book, Amazing Grace, Memoirs of a Transformational Journey, when we come back from the short commercial break.
Intercepted a transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated. I will hear it.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, be gone.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Dr. Serge Beddington, and I'm totally butchered. Every time he said it to me, and I still, I totally butchered it. Anyways, Dr. Serge, look up Dr. Serge. He's got a great book out there, Amazing Grace, Memoirs of a Transformational Journey. We're talking about his experiences. I still haven't got into, I think, his UFO and Death Valley incident at all, but he's had a number of spiritual experiences. We only got about a half hour left. You want to call in the show, the phone lines will be open here in a second. Call in, join the conversation. We also have our YouTube and Facebook and Twitch chat room. I'm trying to see if we can take some questions for her. And right now I got Adrian in there, but we have our Paranormal Soup exclusive chat room if you go to Patreon. And $1 a month, $2 a month. If you want to join us on Patreon to help support the show, and you get exclusive access to me in there. Adrian's talking away. She says, question for Serge. If you were given the task to unify the whole world overnight, how would you go about doing it? That is a great question. How would you unite the world? Reagan thought an alien threat would do it. We might get that. I don't know. We'll ask Serge. We get back to him, and we are opening up the phone lines. So call in, join the conversation. Let's get back to the show. So big question there from Adrian. How would you think we could unite the whole world in a positive way? Do we have to have a nuclear war or have something dramatic happen, or can we have something more positive happen to unite the world?
Well, I think I'll answer it in this way. I think that there's a movement towards integration and wholeness and human evolution. And so that all of life moves towards states of greater wholeness. Anyway, that it's part of the intelligence behind evolution. But in order for this movement towards greater wholeness to happen, certain triggers are needed to have it happen. I mean, it doesn't just happen. And I'm afraid that I think the triggers are the very crises that we're facing at this moment at every single level: economic crisis, sort of war crisis, ecological crisis, social crises, that the crisis between the rich, the very rich and the very poor. And I think that we're growing out of the suffering that is being caused by this. Wait, if I can find it in my book, I just want to, I just want to quote from someone from, if I can just find it. Okay, Bede Griffiths, a Christian monk and Hindu scholar, a great holy man, said when questioned on this issue, "We'll make it, but it'll cost everything, just as Jesus had to go through death into the new world of the resurrection. So millions of us will have to go through a death to the past and to all old ways of being if we are to be brought by the grace of God into the truth of a new reality. God, I believe, wants a new world and a new humanity to be born." Duane Elgin, who wrote a book called Choosing Earth, he said this: "It's the immense suffering of millions, even billions, of precious human beings, coupled with the destruction of many other life forms, that will burn through our complacency and isolation. Suffering is the psychological and psychic fire that can awaken our compassion and fuse individuals, communities, and nations into a cohesive and consciously organized global civilization." And here's what Duane Elgin said. I'm just quoting from great scholars. Chris suggests we see the species mind as a unified psychic field, and this field will be driven into a very tumultuous state by the extreme suffering generated by a monumental global crisis, and that in this hyper-aroused state, the species mind will exhibit the capacity for rapidly accelerated change, heightened creativity, and higher self-organization. And Ilya Prigozhin, in his studies of dissipative structures, says this: "One of the properties of systems when they are driven into difficulties is that they don't just break down, they evolve a capacity for higher self-organization. They generate new structures that pull higher forms of order out of the resultant chaos. Put simply, huge suffering will serve as a purifying fire leading to the awakening of the soul of humanity and the gradual diminishing of importance of all those people who still insist on hanging on to outmoded and negative trains of thought. So that's my answer.
Well, I'm a big Star Trek fan. Gene Roddenberry created Star Trek, and the premise he created upon that we would get a humanity that is totally different.
That?
Well, say we would get a humanity that would be striving for something beyond material gain, like as Picard tries to describe it. Next Generation. Yes, I'm a Trekkie, but he tries to tell. I remember in one scene he tries to explain humanity moved beyond material pursuits as much more of growing spirit. You didn't say spiritually, but in a sense, growing spiritually, growing themselves, their consciousness and their experience. The only way we got there is that there was a nuclear war, World War III, and humanity was almost brought to the brink of destruction. Yeah. And then aliens showed up, the Vulcans. But
I'd like to see what Adrian thinks of my reply. Adrian, are you still there?
Let me see. She's in my Patreon. Let's see. If the whole world can be immobilized, locked down, and masked, then the whole world can stop, protect, love, and give hugs until they are wonderful. I love that.
Lovely. Lovely. So I think that we don't change until things get bad enough often. It's like the person who has a bad cough. They're told by the doctor to stop smoking, and they don't. And then the cough gets a little worse, but they still don't stop smoking. And then they get emphysema, it still doesn't. And then they're told they have lung cancer, then they stop. So given that we have a resistance to growing, even as we have an impulse to grow, and so I think that certainly in my life, I've had periods of suffering and it's helped in my evolution. So I don't think that we should see suffering as a negative, although it's painful.
Right.
But as an awakening trigger.
She goes, yes, Serge, it's
my book.
She said, Serge, it's necessary to process, to purge the negative so the positive may prevail, is her comment on that.
Yeah, good. Okay, great. Any more questions?
Do we have any in the chat room, Jamie? It goes by. It's hard for me to read. I don't have any anymore. I don't know if we got a call. I was going to say I just had a thought on that too. About COVID, one thing I have to say is with lockdown, I'm still, not that I'm as in favor of lockdowns, because I'm not. I was not. And a lot of things that happened, but lockdowns and a lot of what happened gave people a lot of time to reassess their lives, their professions, a lot of time to realize the people they're living with. I thought it was great to get to spend a lot more time with my family, but also look inward. I think we've had a little bit more people interested in the spiritual awakening, and spiritual movement in itself has grown from a lot of it. Because people had a chance to stop that everyday cycle of work, life, and stress and all that. It had to stop. Oh, what was that? But they had to stop, and maybe for some people, a time of reflection.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, sort of friendship and sort of hugging people is very important, and it was very difficult for us. You see, we really need to relate in a concrete way, and that's why I see that sort of Facebook has certain advantages. I'm in touch with certain people I knew sort of 30 years ago, but it's not real friends. We really need to actually have people that we see and we touch and we hug with, and we're tangible with, because it was also a very difficult time for a lot of people who felt very isolated.
Yeah.
we're part of one human family, and
yeah, that's the dark side of it. And why I was against the lockdowns, especially for anybody suffering. I mean, we talked about on the show, just in the paranormal world as an investigator. I really don't do like the big haunted locations. I always tried to do, and I don't get to do it much anymore. But work with people in their homes that are living with it. Like that was my interest. Like not the big haunted locations. As much as I do love those, it's working people in those locations. But I've known people who live in houses, they're being terrorized by something dark, and I imagine what horror that was for them in a lockdown situation to be trapped with that. And then just think about people who have mental illnesses or people that have all these. They need the community. They need people to get through it, and that's why I'm still. I think one of the biggest mistakes we had was locking down so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for children too.
Well, I think it shows the lack of vision of those people who are so-called leaders, that they don't have a vision. As Einstein said, no problem can be solved at the level that it operates. You've got to go to a higher level. And I think most world leaders dealt with COVID at the level it operated on, and they did not show a visionary that, it was an opportunity to do something in a new way. But I think all the world leaders sort of used the old tools that did not apply because it didn't take it to the higher level. I thought that COVID could be more of a breakthrough than it was, but most leaders sort of got it wrong.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Like I said,
in every way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So much so. I mean, maybe it's hindsight, but I'm sorry. A lot of these things I was disagree with right off the bat.
Yeah.
How can I see it? I'm just your everyday Joe. Like, why can't you guys see it? You're the big people in charge. I don't know. Power corrupts absolutely. It made a lot of rich people. It made a lot of other people poor. That's the sad thing. And we're 3 years later still recovering.
Well, that's why the world is in debt of something like $6 quadrillion in debt. I think the American debt is $6 quadrillion. I realized why? Because so much of the money that could have gone into the poor has gone into making the rich richer. And that's the big conspiracy that's going on in your country. And the thing that I never understand is why demagogues get people to vote against their own best interest. My dog is struggling to get in, and she's going to bark. I'm just going to let her in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, I know how it is. Go for it. Well,
Okay, dog, come in.
This dog. Okay.
But do not bark. Sorry.
It's either a dog barking or a cat's butt that I get on somebody's camera.
Sort of, in order to not bark, I'm going to have to take her on my lap. She's my
That's
good
all
friend.
right. My God! Yes. Oh my God! She's adorable. We just found out today we're getting a French Bulldog rescue. We had approved for adoption, so we're excited. We're getting her on Christmas weekend. Oh my God, she's adorable. He or she?
Yes, she. Yes.
She. Oh, what's her name?
Lena. But she's going to stay on my lap because I think
that's perfectly fine.
Otherwise,
I don't turn down a cute dog.
She has little cheeks.
Oh.
Like little furry cheeks.
She's adorable. I'm sorry. People are like, what is going on here? I'm sorry. I'm a sucker for a dog.
And by the way, I just want to say, I think animals are incredibly important.
Yes.
And I think that we really need to honor their intelligence and their value to us in the terrible way that, animals often get treated. And to realize how important they are, how much they teach us about spirituality and unconditional love.
And compassion, yeah.
Sort of this little person teaches me about unconditional love.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you not look in those eyes? I mean, some people they don't believe animals have souls, and I'm like, how? Look into her, her eyes. How can you say that beautiful being doesn't have a soul?
Those little popping out eyes.
Oh.
Yes, your little popping out eyes. Exactly.
Yeah, we lost both our dogs during COVID, during the lockdowns. You want to hear a strange story really quick?
Yeah.
So, right a year before COVID, I had this dream about my oldest dog at the time was Bella. I had this dream that she was being put down outside behind the vet facility, and it was this beautiful sunset. Both my sons were there. My one son's wailing, and my son Liam puts a little flower he picked next to her head, a sunflower, as they put her away. And I remember waking up from that dream and going, wow, that was weird. I know she's getting old. That's just my subconscious dealing with it. And I even told my boss at work about it because him and his husband, they don't have children. They got fur babies, So we talk about our dogs. And I even told him about it. Well, I thought, why, I have dreams about the future. Ever since I was a little kid, I'll have a dream that'll be exactly something that'll happen to me. And I just wrote that off as like, well, why would they be putting my dog outside, down outside? Well, I didn't know about COVID coming, and that they were going to have everything locked down, couldn't go inside, and they had to put my dog down outside. And I remember walking around that vet facility when we had to put Bella down. She had a stroke, and it hit me. I'm like, this is it. Oh my God, this is how I dreamt about this completely as it was happening. Right down on my son putting a little sunflower next to her head. But I couldn't ask for a more peaceful way for my dog to go. It was a beautiful moment, as sad as it was,
Yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah. Sort of death is part of life. Life sort of operates through dying all the time. Sort of cells inside us are dying all the time. But we've got to live, because as Bob Dylan said, he who's not busy living is busy dying. And what's our challenge, all of us, is to get busy living, and really living. And and that's a difficulty for many people whose lives are so hard. I mean, I'll tell you, I used to live in San Francisco for a bit, and I just boggle at the fact that, San Francisco has some of the biggest billionaires in all of America living there, and yet more
the worst homeless
people
yeah.
on the streets. Sort of, what is it about these sort of, how
they
is
have
it
the high,
that,
look at the housing
that
costs
things
there. How could you,
Exactly.
look at the housing costs there. I mean, look at the price to live there. You're going to have homelessness when you have everything that costs that much. It's really sad, and it's in my hometown here in Michigan City, Indiana, we see more and more homeless people. You want to know how much I've taught my kids about compassion? Is that both my sons have had moments where they've ridden in the car and seen a homeless person and started crying.
Yeah, good.
Because we try to put yourself in their shoes, and they will. They're very emotional kids. I'm trying to work with my 7-year-old. He's going to therapy. Because he was there at 4 years old, and I remember I told you put the flower down next to Bella's head. He was smiling the whole time she was being put down. He was 4 years old. He didn't understand. He didn't understand until we got home, and she didn't come home with him. We're 3 years later. He's still affected by that, and it kills me. I didn't have a choice to bring him with me, and he's had some morbid issues as a 7-year-old, and I blame it sadly on Bella's passing, that he had to conceptualize death at 4 years old. I remember having that when I lost a childhood friend at 6 years old when she died in a car wreck. I know that feeling, like, of being that young and trying to conceptualize death, that I could lose the people I care about, and that I could die. Or I could be separated from my mom or my dad. It's I'm trying to work with them. I don't know. It's like such a big question for a 7-year-old to deal with. I feel bad.
Well, your kids are very lucky to have you as their dad, Jason. I think, not everyone has conscious and loving dads like you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just I wish I had an answer for him. we took a vacation down in Florida, and I remember taking our routine that week we were down in Florida was to take walks around this retirement community. And I swear every walk was a talk with my sons about what is life, the afterlife, and it was, this is right after they had been put down, so we were like still coping as a family, and I'm just trying to be the best, not just mentor for my kid, but like I can't be a therapist for him, but I want to help him. I want to help him deal with these same problems that I dealt with, that I still feel like I'm not over.
Well,
it's
Jason, the thing is that we often come prematurely to answers. I think we need to live more fully in the questioning, and then we gradually live our way into the answers.
Otherwise, the answer is 42.
Because otherwise we come to superficial answers just so that we don't have the hassle of not knowing. But I think we need to be in that not knowing place, that it's a good place, that it's a healthy place to be in, that we don't have the answers.
I got one more from me. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I got one more from Adrian here. All right, one more. She's a comment question. See, Adrian has the Patreon. I will try. If you got questions in the chat room to help me out, Jamie. But Adrian has a Patreon, so she's going to get another one here. Comment question. My key to living in inner joy 24/7. I attain this by studying, meditating, experiencing powerful love of the Creator and the Source. Do you think there's a better way or answer for people to find inner joy no one can take away from them? ? I think we kind of answered that. I was like, she's put her question there and we're talking a little bit, but.
Answer, no. Well done, Adrian. Fantastic. You're doing exactly the right thing.
Yeah, you gotta, if anything, what I've been trying to tell my 7-year-old, with the struggle that he's had, like with his like kind of morbid thoughts about death, is I tell him the story of that I saw him, and I know the audience has heard this, but I saw him before he was born. Many years before he was born. It was right when I was getting ready to move out of my parents' house to get married to my wife. I saw this translucent boy looking like 9 or 10. He's 7 right now, but he looked 9 or 10. He was translucent. I felt that same feeling. I felt that overwhelming compassion, love of a creator or something higher than me. I felt totally calm at peace, middle of the day, seeing a translucent boy walking through my living room that was not frightened at all. And he smiled at me, and I just felt that love. When the day he was born, he smiled. When they put him up to my wife, after the C-section, I knew right away that was that boy. And I told him that story. Because I want to realize that you are more than this, that death is not forever.
Yeah.
And he told my wife when he was really young, when he was like 2 or 3, he chose us.
I think we choose our parents before we come in. Absolutely.
That's a hard concept for some people. And I get why it's a hard concept. Yeah. People that have parents that weren't great, it's like, why would I choose them, And I think that's a hard concept for people.
I didn't have great parents, but I'm grateful I didn't have great parents because they set me on a search to find out how one could be a better parent. I hope I've been a better parent to my daughter than my mother was to me, because in those days, in the days that I grew up, children needed to be seen but not heard.
Yeah, now they're heard. They're heard, already.
They're heard. I mean, when my daughter was born, I changed her nappies as much as her mother.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nothing against my father-in-law. I found out he didn't do the diaper thing, or he wouldn't change the diapers. I'm like, what? I do that all the time. I was like, I don't want to sleep on the couch. Hey, honey, you take care of the diapers. That would have not have rolled in my household. But I wouldn't have done that because it's a team effort. Yeah.
I just want to say again, Jason, that if anyone who is listening to this would like a free chat with me, an hour's chat, just be in touch. Find my website and SergeBeddington-Behrens.com. and I'd be happy to speak with you. And again, I want to say that this is not Serge being generous. It's Serge honoring his natural calling, because I think our challenge is to be there in service to our fellow human beings. And it would give me enormous pleasure if some of you sort of rang in and I would be able to talk with you. I'm a busy person, but I would be very happy to fit it in if it would make a difference to you. So please don't think it's generous, but I think that it's what we all need to do. We need to put ourselves out more for our fellow human beings and realize that actually it's not putting ourselves out, it's putting ourselves in, that it's our natural way to be. And I think that a lot of us can do more to support and help our fellow human beings than we do. And we tend to stay a little too much, in our own circle, and me and my family, and that's what's important. And the world out there, can go to hell as long as I'm okay with my family. No, you and I, we're part of the world. We're part of the larger family of humanity, and we need to understand this. I'm just writing an essay at the moment that I'm going to put on my website called "Friendship and Friendliness." And I think we need to be much more friendly to people who feel outcast, who don't feel connected in. I think that being a spiritual person is not just going on shows like this and sort of, spouting out how much one knows or whatever, although that's part of it, but it's going out and actually sort of meeting people and connecting. And there's a lot of people in the world today who feel disconnected. And if we feel disconnected to ourselves, we feel disconnected to others and to our planet. And if we go out in friendliness and we hold a connecting and loving energy towards those people, it can help warm a cold heart and help them to be able to connect more. Because I think that that's sort of one of the great problems. So many people feel disconnected. And again, a lot of it is due to fault lines in society.
We're out of time. There's so much more we could get into that. It's so much I agree with.
Well, anyway, if you're interested, if you're out of time, buy my book, Amazing Grace, that you can get it on Amazon. And I'm not just saying it for a commercial point of view, but I think it's funny and it's interesting. And if you're on a spiritual path, I think it can support you on your journey, because I've told all the difficult things about it. Okay.
Well, thank you, Dr. Serge. Sorry, I haven't called you Dr. Serge because I'm not going to butcher your last name one more time.
Hey, Dr. Jason. Hey, Dr. Jason. Thank you. Thank you, old buddy. Really,
thank you so
really
much.
Nice talking to you. I feel honored to have been on your show. And thank you, dear, beautiful lady.
Jamie,
I've never
it's all
known
right.
your name. Yeah, Jeannie, thank you as well. And it's been a great honor and privilege to have sort of rock and rolled a little bit. God, it's now 8 o'clock, and we started at at 5:30.
It goes by fast. It's the time.
Wow.
Paranormal Soup. It does go by fast.
Time Warp, a Paranormal Soup. God bless, Jason. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Serge. Have a great night. All right, guys, and have a great holiday, too. Have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you.
And you. Thank you very much.
That is it for the show, guys. We will be back next Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel. Next week's guest is Art Geiser. He's a healer and psychic trainer. We're going to talk about expanding your psychic abilities with Art Geiser next week. Thank you to everybody who shares the show. Thank you to all my Patreons. Thank you, Adrian, for your comments tonight in our Patreon. Don't forget, $1 a month, $2 a month. You can join our Patreon and get comments and questions like Adrian did tonight. And again, keep sharing out the show and telling people about Paranormal Soup with Weird Happens Live every Sunday night. And yes, Weird, I embrace it, own it. You're here. All right, guys, have a great night. See you next Sunday.